I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you all. Please be seated. If you have a cell phone on you, please either turn the volume down, turn it to silent, or turn it off. Okay, this is the time for public comments. Welcome, one and all. It's always good.
We got more seats.
Yeah, we got seats down in front. You guys come on down. Lots of
Come on
seats down
down.
here. We won't bite you. You can come on down here. Anyway, this is the time for public comment. Council may ask questions but may take no action during the public comment period section of the meeting except to direct staff to prepare a report or place an item on a future agenda. If you are here to make comments on a specific agenda item, which I think you probably are, you may speak at that time. If not, this is the time. Please limit your remarks to 5 minutes.
John, we can't hear you. Is your microphone on?
Uh-oh.
Is our microphone on, Liz?
It is.
Maybe scoot it closer. Here's, there you go.
Okay, can you hear me now? Okay, microphone's a little closer. Okay, speakers, if anyone wants to speak on another item, please come to the microphone, come to the podium, state your name and mailing address so that city staff can respond to you in regards to your comments or provide you with information if appropriate. You are not required to state your name and address if you do not desire to do so. Welcome.
Well, thank you. Good to be back. Jay Perkins, 9312 Guys Gulch. I don't live within the city, but I am within the zip code. I was here, I don't know, it was a couple of months ago, talking about the Yreka Area Fire Safe Council's Community Wildfire Protection Plan. And I wanted to just share with you some additional information. I don't have any particular updates. The analysis is moving on. But taking advantage of an opportunity, with the advent of another grant that's come to us, and it's an emergency preparedness for vulnerable populations grant. It's a Cal OES grant with United Way Northern California. So we've applied for it, and hopefully we'll get it. But regardless of that, I've spoken with Chief Limos and others, and one of the thoughts that we were having is there's some things we can do to heighten the whole notion of preparing ourselves for wildfire or other emergency disasters. And we'll be doing some of those through the actions with the grant we got with the CWPP, but I still think there's things we can do as a community to keep this, to increase the knowledge level and to keep the awareness high as well. This all came to pass because of a state auditor's report that was sent out in December called "California is not adequately prepared to protect its most vulnerable residents from natural disasters." A very interesting read. I've highlighted, here, I have some handouts for each of you. I've highlighted a few things, I'm not gonna go over them tonight. What I would like to just quickly focus on is not just the Yreka Area Fire Safe Council, but also doing this on behalf of the Siskiyou County Fire Chiefs Association, as well as the Scott Valley Coalition of Fire Safe Councils. So we'd really like to have a really broad breadth of approach, this whole notion of preparing for wildfire and wildfire disasters and what we can do as community members and so on and so forth. You can go ahead and read the way through it as you go along, I'm not going to go through this. When you have the time, you may read what I have, but here's what I would like to propose. And as I said, I've talked to Chief Limos and several other fire chiefs. I'd like to take a look at May 2nd, which is the National Fire Protection Association's Wildfire Community Preparedness Day. And trying to get as many fire departments as possible to participate, create an open house, and really work with communities, community members, again, educating and teaching and working on getting ready for community preparedness. Our particular target, if we do get the grant, will be vulnerable populations. And vulnerable populations are those, if you've read the aftermath of the Camp Fire or the Car Fire, is the people that typically lost their lives or had the biggest problems were over 65 and disabled.
Older people.
Exactly. And so so that's the purpose of the grant, is really to approach and to take that on and to take it head on. So I'm hopeful we can get the grant, but irrespective, again, working with Chief Limos, want to work with that May 2nd date and have an open house, opportunity to meet your new chief, and other opportunities, you know, to take advantage of that. So looking at May 2nd, you can read what we would do or we wouldn't do. Chief Lemos suggested, well, why not also set up a booth and do something during Gold Rush days? So I thought, well, we could
That's
do
a good
that
idea.
either at the firehouse or someplace else to continue to carry the message onward. And I think I will leave it at that. Let me close on the backside, just to give you a sense of the number of potential vulnerable, the number of people we have that are vulnerable populations. I went to the Census Bureau, or Census site on the internet, and came up with a 2017 information. And you can see on the backside, I've got Siskiyou County, Yreka, and broke it out, but let's just talk about Yreka very quickly. Well over 20% of the population is over 65. It's an indication, it's not an answer. Over 20% live in poverty, and poverty presents a whole other set of issues, possibly to people that need to escape or prepare for wildfires or other emergencies. Here's a very interesting one. One of the things they found in the campfire up in Paradise is all the instructions were given in English, and nothing was done in other languages. And so if you take a look at here in Siskiyou County, over 20% of the population doesn't speak English primarily at home. So that's an additional challenge for first responders. That's an additional challenge, is to make sure that we can work with everybody. And then lastly, I just want to share that if you take a look at self-reporting disabilities, you can see the percent of people there that are part of the self-reported disabilities, whether it's mobile, whether it's sensory, hearing, sight, etc.
Thank you.
And that's all I have.
Oh, good, that was perfect. We just had the 5 minutes in there. Thank you very much, Jay. Are there, yeah, we can't do any questions, but thank you for the good information, and we'll
Yes,
look
thank you.
forward to May 2nd and working with Chief Lemos.
And I'll be back.
And you.
Awesome.
I've heard
Thanks,
that,
Jimmy.
I'll be back. Okay, we'll see you then, thank you. All right, thank you, Jerry. All righty, item number 1, discussion, possible action, consent calendar. All matters listed under the consent calendar are considered routine and will be enacted by one motion unless any member of the council wishes to remove any item for discussion or a member of the audience wishes to comment on an item. The city manager recommends approval of the following consent calendar items. A, approval ratification of payments issued from January 17th to February 6th, 2020. B, approval of minutes of the meeting held January 16th, 2020. What are the wishes of the council?
So moved.
Okay, we have a motion. Do I have a
Second.
second? Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve the consent calendar. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same side. Motion carries. Okay, item number 2, discussion, possible action, approval of appointment of Kyle E. Manchester and Wyatt L. Manchester to the Yreka Volunteer Fire Department. Wonderful, come on down, gentlemen, and chief, introduce your new firemen.
Right.
Hey, thank you. Madam Mayor, honorable members of the City Council, I present to you tonight Wyatt Manchester and his brother Kyle. I call them Brothers Manchester. Maybe someday they can play some instruments, become their own band.
There you go.
Great young men. They've been extremely diligent in attending all of our meetings and training, even though they're not certified members yet. And I've had to pull back on the reins a couple of times where they want to go. But
That's good.
after tonight, they're going to be having plenty of activities. So,
Excellent.
yeah, they're great young guys. Hard to find young guys like these now that are around during the day. And we have, a great bunch of CAL FIRE individuals that, they're gone during the summer, but we need more of this, and that's what we're looking for, is folks that are here during the day and, can be here, January through December, so.
That's
Anyway, that's
great.
a new dynamic, a new demographic we're gonna try to shoot for.
That's great.
So, if things are looking up, so.
Great, welcome,
Yes.
both of you. So I think we probably have a swearing in to
Yep.
do.
We need to vote on it first.
Oh, we have to vote, okay. Do I have a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion to approve the appointment of Kyle E. Manchester and Wyatt L. Manchester to the Yreka Fire Department.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, motion
Sweet.
carries. Welcome, gentlemen.
Yes, welcome.
And
Welcome.
now, our city
Now we
clerk
got-
will swear you in.
That's great.
Center and look up the
smile at the camera. Raise your right hand and repeat after me. Raise your right hand and repeat after me. I state your name. Do solemnly swear that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States
to the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California
and the Constitution of the State of California
against all enemies,
against all enemies,
foreign and domestic,
foreign and domestic,
that I will bear true faith and allegiance
that I will bear true faith and allegiance
to the Constitution of the United States
to the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California,
and to the Constitution of the State of California,
that I take this obligation freely
that I take this obligation freely
without any mental reservation
without any mental reservation
or purpose of evasion,
or purpose of evasion,
that I will well and faithfully
that I will well and faithfully
discharge the duties
discharge the duties
upon which I am about to enter.
upon which I am about to enter.
Congratulations.
When you get through signing your name, we would love to congratulate you. Good job, Jerry. I mean, Chief. Chief Jerry. Oopsies. Come on over, we'd love to congratulate you.
Congratulations, welcome aboard.
Yes, congratulations. We're glad
Welcome
you're here.
aboard.
Be safe. Congratulations. Thank you. Be safe. Be safe.
Thanks for your service.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, that's great. Nice young man. We do appreciate their
Yes.
service to keep all of us safe.
One last thing.
Yes.
I don't have anything else tonight unless, I don't know, staff report's gonna be at the end.
Yes, at
But
the
I'll
end.
just do this so that I don't, in case we have to leave on the
Yep.
call.
Okay.
I always come to you with, I'll run a lot of calls, same medicals, but I do have some great news for you tonight. And I'll bring them back next meeting, and so you recognize everybody for what they did.
Okay.
One of us here tonight, Cody Hankins in the back there, he's roommates with the Manchester boys. But
Oh, good.
we had a call for a lady that was experiencing dizziness, so they responded. Upon entering the residence, they found that she became unconscious, and they had to initiate CPR. Went through the process, about 8 rounds of CPR, and then used the defibrillator several times, got a pulse, and she was breathing when she went to the hospital.
Oh, good.
She was at Fairchild, and they transferred her to Reading. And as the last that I heard was yesterday, that she'll be coming home very soon.
Good.
Great
Wow.
news.
A verified field safe, which does not happen very often when you
No.
initiate CPR, even though that's why we do it, that's why we train, so.
That's
Finally, some good news.
We
That's-
like
Yeah,
good news.
sure.
Thank you.
So
That's
I'll
awesome.
bring them back for you next time you can meet them, so.
Oh,
Great.
right on.
Thank you for sharing that.
Yes,
Chief.
thank you.
We appreciate it. Okay, so we're on to item number 3. So how many of you here tonight are here for item number 3? Update on Yreka water. That's what I thought, okay. We're glad you're here. We always love to hear from our constituents. So tonight, because we have so many people here, we're going to have 3-minute, we're gonna have 3-minute comments. And who has the controller for the, okay, all right, Cindy will control that. So, I just wanted to say that I've heard and seen on the internet that there's some misinformation that's out there in the public. And I decided to put this on the agenda, we all did, so that we can clear up any misinformation and false facts. So we're glad that you're all here tonight, and we hope to be able to clear that up for you. So we have our Director of Public Works here, and Arthur is here controlling the computer.
It controls me.
It controls you, okay. And Matt's gonna give you a little bit of the history, a few of the pictures, graphs, information about where our water comes from, how the water comes down, how we get our share of the water, and the fact that our water does not go through any fish poop. Somebody had a rumor going around that our water was going to go through a fish hatchery. Not true. The water comes down, it splits off, 15 cubic feet for the fish, 15 cubic second feet go into our water. There is no combination of that. Just wanted you all to feel safe that you're not drinking fish poop. So, Matt, you've got some information.
I do.
Barrels.
I mean, win with the technology.
I really watch Netflix.
Technology.
That one.
2 out of 3.
Oh, I got 2 out of 3. Gotta turn it on.
I'm gonna keep this one your way.
Okay, we can see the one up
Oh,
there.
there it is.
Oh, there you go, you got it. It's
Yeah, there
on.
we go.
Good job.
So those of you that don't know me, I'm Matthew Bray, I'm your Director of Public Works. And what I've done today is I took my staff and we came up with some aerial photos and some real photos on the ground, so we all know what we're talking about, the same thing. Kind of nuts and bolts, pipes and fittings, like the world that I live in. Where the water's coming from and how we get it, at least for tonight's presentation, to the lake and under the lake. So this one's gonna go your way. I guess the best way to do it is stand over here. Can you follow me over here,
Mm-hmm.
Madam Mayor? So what we're looking at here is an aerial view of Yreka, Montague. We've got Iron Gate Lake and Copco Lake, Oregon border on up in. So the water in Fall Creek comes from Oregon. It crosses the border there in that green spot up between the 2 lakes in this area, Arthur Sled. This is Spring Creek, this is coming into Fall Creek, this is the general area of where our drinking water comes from. And then it turns and heads south, on down the mountain. Beautiful up there, this is where the fire blew through a few years and caused some grief for our water treatment guys, because the turbidity of the dirt and the muck that got in there a couple days, but our filter system took care of that. So again, we've got Iron Gate Lake on your left, to the west, Copco to the east. We're zoning in on this area right here, so hopefully my slides make sense for everybody, kind of move around a little bit. So we're zoomed in just a little bit tighter, still got Iron Gate, we're looking at the Fall Creek drainage here. So here's a little bit 3D model representation, so that can get us on the ground, kind of boots on the ground stuff. So the water's coming from up around here on the border, it's coming down this canyon in Fall Creek. There's a diversion point here, which hopefully most of you can see, there's a cut down the mountain there. That cut is a 24-inch pipeline from what they call the penstock. Now the penstock is a diversion for the Pacific Power power plant. I think 1914 was your first time it went in?
Long time ago, 12, 14.
I was close. So this is the pipeline that comes down to spin the turbines in here. And this is our primary water feed of the Fall Creek water that we set into our intake structure, which lays directly below that. So this station has what we call a tail race. The water comes into it, spins the turbines, comes out, it's a short section of creek, and drops into our intake structure. We take all of our water for Yreka at the intake structure. Even when they're working on the pipeline here, and they divert water around what we call the B dam, we have an intake structure here, which in a pipe from the bottom of the falls comes to the intake. I'm gonna speak to that a little bit. This gets really busy. So as I say, we've got our intake structure here at the bottom of the tail race. The big pipeline that we saw come down the hill comes into the power plant, spins the turbines, comes down here, we take it here. When it gets shoved around to the Fall Creek Falls, for maintenance of the station, we'll grab it here and take it back to this intake point. There's just a little picture of the B dam, very simple boards in an abutment, concrete abutment on that side. The A dam, I think I have some better slides of, but this is the A dam. Below that intake is the existing hatchery diversion structure. So the structure that has been there for over the years, a hatchery and a set of rearing ponds, and it also goes down across the road. That intake is here below our intake, all right, here below our intake. Next slide, we can get a little bit. So this is the powerhouse. You can almost see the pipeline going up the hill to the right. So it comes into that powerhouse, goes through these turbines. those turbines on the left, and comes out the right, which is what we start to call the tail race. So it's coming downhill out of 24-inch pipe, spins the turbines, creates some power, they dump it out in the tail race, and it comes on down to our intake structure. The intake structure I was talking about is here. This is what we call the A dam. It's our primary intake structure. This is our intake structure. So there's a dam on the right-hand side, it's a little short across the creek, and that water comes down from the power plant, which you almost see in the distance there, but not quite. Comes in and hits this dam. This dam pulls that water back in a pool, and it comes into the intake structure, which has been cleaned by a set of mechanical self-cleaning screens. You see on the left, it says water from the B dam. So that other pipe, when they're working over there on the turbines and they shove the water around the other side, that other pipe comes in this side and ties into the intake structure. So we take water from two different places and put it to the one, and that's our intake.
And none of those are a hatchery?
No,
No.
this is above the hatchery
Yes.
intake. This that says intake here, it heads out down the way to our pump station where we actually throw some pressure on it, but it's gravity out of this. This is a completely gravity fed. This is the A dam. So bottom of the screen, that's where it comes into those mechanical scrubber screens that run 24/7 to keep the debris off the screen, so we get nice clean intake without any sticks and twigs. The water that goes over the A dam goes down about 50, 60 so on feet. That's where the existing hatchery diversion lies. So we take the water that we're allowed by our right, and we have to put the water that we're bound to by right over this dam. So I'm gonna back up one more time. So we've been to the intake and talked a little bit about the hatchery, which is down here below the confluence in the power plant. So the gravity line from the intake structure behind the screens flows in a 24-inch pipe to our first set of pump stations. We have massive, massive pumps there. We ramp that water up to about, we shock chlorinate it, ramp it up to about 270 PSI, and then shove it down the road, on the north side of the road, to where the crossing is now. So, this is the heart of the matter, right? So we're at the crossing. This is hard to look at on the screen also. So, this is the pipe coming in from our pumps, running extremely high pressures because we have to push it under the lake and up to a tank on the far horizon that we call the climate pass tank, which is south of the lake. So to get the water to the top of that hill, it's not a big one, but it takes quite a bit of PSI for the head pressure to make it up there. So when this was designed, they laid it on the bottom, bedded it, laid it on the bottom, covered it with cobble, and then covered it again. So it's a big 24-inch pipe laying on the bottom of the lake with years and years now of muck and mud and everything else that's come over it. But that's armored by concrete rubble, basically. I've never personally seen it because I don't think you can see much further than that in that section of the lake, close to here. But it goes down and it comes up and it rises through this meadow on the other side. And you can see the cut. And this is the Fall Creek line. So from here, it's about another 23 miles to town. The climate pass tank's tucked up around this corner. You can't quite see it from here. But it's in essence a bleeder tank. So we're hitting it with 270 PSI, getting it underneath this lake. It's rising up, hits the top. The big bleeder valve on the top of KP just lets off the air. And then from there, it gravity flows all the way to the tanks in town. Now, we grab it again, which I don't have slides for, at the filter treatment plant, which is outside on 3 Mile, north of Montague. And that's where we do our finished water. Up till then, if we call it raw, even though we have shock chlorinated it back at the headworks, at the first pumping station, we whack it with chlorine to carry the transmission line to keep it clean until it gets all the way to the top of 3 Mile Lane at Montague River Road. Grew up there, so I call it 3 Mile. So that's the crossing. Do I have another slide after this?
No.
That's my last slide. That was fast. So, so what has been proposed? We've met with a list of folks, Dawn and I, and the city manager, staff, Rob Taylor, our water manager, for many, many years. And we've talked many options. And number one thing was to protect our water. It was all we were really worried about, that's all we are worried about, and protect our pipeline because we need that water, it's our only source. We've got some backup wells that get us through, they will get us through. We just rebuilt the new one down on the north well. We've got the Davis well coming into the new PD. That'll be a great backup well, but we need this 24-inch pipe to run whenever we need it to run. So I'll try to maybe cover a few of these. I don't want to get too deep to make it a gigantic presentation, but I know there's a lot of questions about the pipe. So I used, it's not even an adage, but at least with staff at the beginning of this, when they came and KRRC came and talking about moving our pipe. Well, I have this feeling if you come to my house, you're welcome to visit, but if you move a bunch of stuff around, you better put it back before you leave. And I stood firm on that with Dawn and with the city manager and all our staff in every meeting we had with their engineers. And it was about the placement and the depth and how they would put this pipe in. Because the city is not going to install this. Whatever it is, the proposed pipe, if it happens, the city, Public Works is not installing it. It'll be installed by a contractor, it'll be engineered by engineers, it would be double checked by our engineers, overseen by our engineers. But it was really, I think Dawn probably remembers, I said, it's underground now, it's gonna be underground when they leave. And I told them that, and they went off and came back with months and months and months, maybe years, of engineering. And they went as far as to take a drill rig and put it on a barge and float it out here and drill a large number of bore samples down to the depths that they thought the engineers would need to save this pipe from, should the dams come out and should this turn back into a river, the scour of an active river it moves rocks, it moves boulders, it moves trees. You get a 24-inch pipe about that, it better be armored and it better be deep. So they ran the numbers.
Yeah, who was they?
The engineering firms, there's multiple engineering firms that the KRRC has hired, and environmental firms. And so there's 5 or 6 or 7 of them that we've worked with over the years. Those numbers, the soils came back to where, I wish I would've went up today and got some more pictures. Just to the left of this is a big lava rock outcropping, and then it turned into this beautiful meadow and the rest of the lake. So in their soil samples that they shared with us, the data they shared, they got down into some soils that are not conducive for microtunneling. So number one, when we said, you're coming into our house, you're putting it back underground, the microtunneling, this area, this geological area is not conducive to microtunneling. There were sections that were basalt that were too hard for the drill to get through, and then there were sections of ancient riverbed cobble that would collapse. So their first schematic that they shared with us was to drill big, huge shafts down on either side of the lake, one out here and one back on the north side, massive shafts to drop that big, if you've all seen it on TV, when the big dig, where they're building subways and they got the big face cutter. That's the way they went with their engineering, was to huge shafts, drop a robot down there 50, 100 feet and bore across the thing. So the soils come back where it's not an option. Another option was to go try to hang it off of the existing bridge, which goes over to the Copco Village, which we shot down pretty quick. It's an antiquated bridge, it's not tall enough. But we weren't getting the answers for the FEMA 100-year floodplain that everybody kind of knows about. You don't have FEMA floodplain data up that far in the middle of the sticks. So they're running off of other geological surveys. So they have a pretty good idea of where the river level will be, and hanging it off of the existing bridge, the antiquated bridge, just was not good. And we went through that option in depth. The other option was to try just a direct drilling, so direct drilling, micro tunneling, hang off the other bridge. And the last one, which is the least expensive, I know that's the question in the public right now, it is the least expensive, is to design for the engineers that work for KRRC to engineer the bridge abutments on either side and then build a structural pipe bridge. So the 24-inch replacement pipe is actually part of the bridge, and it's off of a couple of abutments, and it comes out of the ground, rises up, goes over the lake and back underground. And then it's conceptually designed with ballistic armor plating, box on the bottom and the sides with a catwalk, and then completely encased off the sides so vandals cannot get onto the pipe bridge. That's the conceptualized design at this point. And city public works, we are comfortable with this because number one, if there's a leak in that pipe right now, I don't know where it is, and I'm never gonna find it because it's leaking into a lake. So if we're gonna fix it, I'd hire divers, dig it up. I mean, it's been there and we haven't ever touched it. So to get it up into the aerial pipe bridge catwalk, ballistically armored up to 50 cal, rifles, it actually allows public works in the future, 50, 60, 80, 100 years from now, to go out there and perform maintenance on the pipe. So this was not taken lightly. Like I said before, it was underground, we want it underground. So far, it's been proven that it's not feasible to put it underground. And yes, it's very expensive to put it underground. But on the flip side, and I rode that horse the whole way to the very end. It's underground for months and months. But the aerial pipe bridge, staff decided was the most logical, yes, inexpensive. But for future maintenance, it allows us to get to it. Whereas if it goes back underground and it blew up, we gotta put a new one in. So that's gonna be even more expensive than working on what's here. So there are a lot of questions, I know. I hope maybe I answered a handful of them. I don't wanna take up the whole night, but those are my pictures.
Thank you, Matt.
Thank you, Matt, yes. So how many of you here live in the Yreka city limits? Okay, well, a little over half, okay. And how many of you want to speak tonight? Okay, so that's great. So we're gonna ask you to line up over here by the brand-new podium.
Yes.
We just got a new podium. Good job, Matt. And there's a microphone over there. State your name, where you live, and what your concern is. You have 3 minutes, and what we're gonna do is we're going to take each question. Arthur here is going to put the question up on the board. We're gonna go through and get everyone's question, make sure when we get it, that it's captured exactly the way that you have it in your mind and you want it answered. And then we're going to go through and answer all the questions at once. So, Arthur's giving it, what's going on, Arthur?
Well, it's not. I can take the questions, but it won't necessarily be up on the screen.
No, we need them.
We
need
can
'em on
move
the
forward
screen.
with the questions and we'll get
Catch
the
up?
tech figured out afterwards.
Okay.
So we
All
will
right,
be
so
capturing them.
anyone that has a comment that you would like to make, if you want to come down here to the podium and state your name, where you're from, and what your question is.
It just doesn't want to push to the screen.
Hi, Donna.
Just when you go to work.
Come on down. Hi, Donna.
Mine is not a question.
Donna Bachagalupi.
Oh, excuse me, Donna Bachagalupi. I do not live in Siskiyou County. I don't live in the city limits. I have a ranch out Little Shasta. My comment is, I came because I'm curious about the article that was in the paper, which I know a lot of the people here are here for that reason, saying that the city is neutral on the dams being taken out. I'm not sure how you can be neutral when most of this county is supported by ranchers. Ranchers depend on the irrigation water. We need those dams in. If those dams come out, our irrigation water will go down the river to support the fish. So I can't see how the city of Yreka can possibly say they are neutral on taking the dams out. And if, in fact, that was a mistake, I would like it corrected because it looks to the people in this county that this city is for the dams coming out. And I know you may not feel that way, but that's the perception in the county. So if you don't feel that way, you need to get that on the radio, you need to get that in the paper, you need to pull all that back, because you've got a lot of mad people. Thank you.
Thank you, Donna. Okay, Grace, welcome.
Hi, I'm Grace Bennett. I live at 101 South Fairchild in Yreka. And I want to thank you for all the work that you've done on the project and working diligently to make sure that the city of Yreka's water is protected. I did a little research in the revised KHSA, and they're on page 39 of that document, and I checked with the state, and this is a binding document. And it says, the parties understand that the actions related to this settlement may affect the city of Yreka. In recognition of this, the parties agree that the following provisions, which shall remain in effect so long as the settlement remains in effect. The parties collectively and each party individually shall agree not to oppose the city of Yreka's continuing use of the California State Water Right Permit 1537-9, which proposes for the diversion of up to 15 CSFs for municipal water use for the city of Yreka. And it has some other things too, and I'm not going to read those, but I want you to know that this is a binding document. And the most important part about this is the water that comes to us from Oregon is very polluted. It comes out of Upper Klamath Lake. It's shallow, it's hot, the water is, and then from there it goes through a series of irrigation pumps and things for the Klamath Project, and that water is dumped, and through the wildlife refuge, that water is dumped back into the Klamath River without any kind of purification or anything. So the water is impaired. That water comes to California. The dams act as release sediment pools for that sediment and nitrates and phosphorus and nutrients all to settle. When it comes out of the dams, it's cleaner than when it goes in. There are 84 creeks and rivers below the dams that act as dilutants to that water. And they're above the dams, there are only about 6 creeks that come in. My problem with all of this is Siskiyou County does not have enough water to dilute the impaired water that comes to us. It's really nasty, and it will affect everybody that gets any kind of water for irrigation out of, and they always say that there isn't any irrigation that comes out, but there is. And already they have taken away some water rights from some of the creeks along the river. I know that they will, if there isn't enough water in the river to meet the California Department of Fish and Wildlife's recommendations for the amount that is there to protect the fish, that they will come to the people that along the river and the creeks and rivers in the city of Yreka and say, gosh, your permit, we need more of your water to help the fish. And that's my greatest fear, is that Scott River, Shasta River, city of Yreka, people that live along all of the creeks will not have the water that they are entitled to when all of this, if all of this happens. And I know that you're aware of those kinds of things, but it's really, really important. And the city has many projects that they're looking into, and water and sewer. One is very important to new business growth, and I know that you all know that, so, thank you.
Thank you,
Grace.
Grace. Louise?
Louise Guglielmo, and I live in Yreka. And I'm disappointed that the city manager is not here tonight because I don't want to say something about someone when they're not here.
He couldn't be here, he's at a meeting, so.
That's what I
it's an
understand, so
annual
it's
meeting.
unfortunate he's not here. I have some questions and some comments. My question is that it appeared in the newspaper, as Donna said, that the city was neutral and removing
Can I
the
just
dams.
correct something really quick?
Yes.
The city is not neutral. The city has not taken a position, and it has been that way since early 2000s, 2008, 2009. This isn't something new, but it's not, it's just a finite difference, but we have not taken a neutral position. We have not taken a position.
Then why did the city manager say that in the
He
paper?
misspoke.
Yes.
Okay, so then the city manager, as Donna says, needs to fix that because you've got a lot of really angry and upset
I agree.
people. And on your seat, before you all got here, I put this paper out there and it says Siskiyou County Water Users Association. And this was done for Bob Wright, and I did this together. After Measure G, we went through and looked at all the different precincts to see how they voted. And guess what? If you go down there where it says 85%, that was most of Yreka that voted that way. And 85% of the people in that particular area and precincts voted against dam removal. So that's why we're upset here, because the people voted for it in 2010. An astounding 79%, that's unheard of in any election,
Yeah,
that you
it is.
get 79% of the people saying that they don't want the dams removed. So my question is, who's the city attorney? What's his name? Where does he come from? And does he know about that we have this Measure G and how the city feels about it? Because I was told that the city attorney has told the staff that they are to maintain a neutral stance when it comes to public comments on the dams. Is that true?
That'll be on the questions that we'll answer.
And will you introduce the city attorney so we
Yes,
know his
we
name?
certainly will. He's right there, Don
Okay,
Henyon.
and is the city attorney anywhere around this area? Does he have a dog in the race?
Crescent City, and he has several dogs because his wife has a dog training business.
That's not what I mean, Joe. We all live here,
I
and if
know.
those dams come out, we will all be affected. So he doesn't, obviously you said he doesn't live here in this area, so he doesn't have a dog in the race in spite of his wife. Okay. My other question is.
Not his wife, his wife's dogs.
I do too. So those are the questions I have, and the other comments I want to make is KRRC is not our friend. They are liars, they are cheats, they are hired assassins. They have been hired to take down our dams. They're not interested in the science, they don't care about the morality, they're getting paid to take out our dams. They don't care, and I don't trust them. And some of the people they have working for them are not trustworthy people, they don't have integrity. Dave Muir was one of them. He took Ted Gaines' email list that we had as constituents calling in, and he used them for personal benefit when he got hired by KRRC. Thank you.
Thank you.
Louise. Okay. Supervisor Nixon, I'm sorry I didn't welcome you when you came in. Welcome to the Yreka City Council.
I'm sorry I was late. Thank
We're
you.
glad to see you.
I'm Lisa Nixon, and I live at 1127 Discovery Street in Yreka. I have been heavily involved with the dam removal issue from the county's perspective because I am your supervisor, Yreka District Supervisor. I felt compelled to come tonight to, I know I'm supposed to be speaking to the council, but I feel like I'm also speaking to my constituents about the county's position on all of this. I've been kept abreast of the city's efforts with regard to protecting this water supply. And I wanted to make a couple of points tonight. The first one of which I feel obviously will be better developed when you reach this. And that is the fact that it's not a surprise to me that the county is perceived as being neutral. I know that it has never taken the city, excuse me, it has never taken a position one way or the other on dam removal publicly. And my point is, whether you agree or disagree, whether you think this was a wrong decision or right decision, I believe there was a reasonable justification for it. and it was made by intelligent professional people. It's my understanding that the then city attorney was part of this decision. And it went like this. It was a negotiating tactic, and again, if I'm wrong, correct me. A decade and a half ago, when Pacific Corps first broached this idea about taking the dams out, our city didn't sit on its hands and fold its arms and say, we're not talking to you. They engaged with Pacific Corps, as they should have. What are you doing? Why are you doing this? Do you realize that our water delivery system will be severely harmed? The quality and quantity of water that we may receive may be compromised. Our very right to receive that water may be in jeopardy. So they sat down with Pacific Corps, and they were engaged in very complex negotiations for quite some time. So the tactic that they took was, if you were sitting down in a civil negotiation to come to some understandings and agreements, and trying to be civil during the day, you don't go out at night and smack talk your opponent. So that is a negotiating strategy that works very well. Maintaining a civil relationship is often the best course of getting what you want. So again, whether you agree that that was the right decision or not, I believe that's why they took that. So there's an explanation for that. I've been kept apprised of the city's efforts in this regard. When I first took county office and got my arms around this whole effort and understood that, Grace, you spoke to the KHSA. I understand that the city is not a party to that agreement. It is what they call in legalese a third-party beneficiary. That agreement has a clause that it cannot be enforced by any third-party beneficiary. Our only avenue for getting what we want at the city level and county level is to be a part of this FERC proceeding. The ultimate decision is now in the hands of the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission. I felt it was imperative that the city join in that administrative process, and they have done that. They now have the power to present arguments legally into that forum, as does the county, as do the Siskiyou water users and a number of individuals who are concerned. So I think that's an important step. And finally, I want to emphasize, we have to talk to KRRC. The city must talk to KRRC. The county must talk to KRRC. First I'll tell you about the county's issues. Now suddenly we are faced, our most pressing issue now is the fact that the KRC is putting out bids for the demolition work. And it will clearly destroy the county roadways in and out of the Popco area. Our citizens can't handle that. They'll have no ingress and egress. We cannot let that happen. We have to talk to KRRC. The city has to talk to KRRC to come to some arrangement about how they are going to mitigate the damage to our water delivery system. Because at the end of the day, no matter how hard we pound our fists and make demands, if KRC can't get their arms around them and sign on to what we want, it's not going to make it into the FERC order. We have to get what we want in that FERC order, or we will be severely damaged.
Yes.
So, finally, is dam removal a done deal, as I've heard somebody say? And I posit not on your life. KRC is so far away from responding to the careful comments that FERC is giving them, the requirements. Take their insurance package, for example. The size and scope of this thing is unprecedented in global history. I mean, they're calling upon insurance products from foreign nations, for Pete's sake. They are not even close in putting that package together. They are at their cost cap. They will likely run over it. They have no concrete plan for dealing with cost overruns, but some nebulous concept of donations. In my experience as a business attorney, being involved with millions and millions of dollars of development deals, sometimes projects get so complicated and so costly, and the deadlines keep being pushed out, that they implode in and of themselves. And if this thing fails, I think it will be for that reason. And I'm not ready to throw in the towel. So we must talk to these people and work our way through the process. Thank you, that's all I have to say.
Thank you.
Lisa.
Thank you, Lisa. We certainly really appreciate it, and I just want to say what a pleasure it is to work. And for those of you that don't know, we do work very closely with our representative. We work very closely with the Board of Supervisors, and we appreciate your leadership and all that you're
Yes, we
doing.
do.
Mayor Freeman, thank you. If anyone would like to talk to me about the county's perspective, please reach out to me. My contact information is on the county website. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa. Fred Scott, welcome.
Good evening, my name's Fred Scott. I no longer live in the city of Yreka, but according to the city manager, I have 11 commercial people that I rent to on Minor Street in the historic district. And so I have a stake in this game. And my wife's a retired teacher from Yreka school system, so I feel like I was almost born here. I'm gonna take a little different angle on this. So Paul McCoy and Dwayne and Joan and Debbie and I go way back in years, many years.
Not that many.
And I would go to them if I had a question about this stuff. First thing I want to say is that the county supervisors are doing a really excellent job, just as we've heard. And the reason that I know that is because I've gone to the meetings and I've listened to them. I've gone to everything from protests on the river to protests on Minor Street. I've been to a lot of the water meetings, a lot of the things. I've been to all this stuff because I'm interested and I'm invested. But here's the part that's going to hurt. I don't see you guys there. I don't see you going and getting so involved in this, even though you're my friends, you're leaving this at a distance because it's the city. I think the city, from what I've heard, and I'm sure that Bob Rice could tell you how forceful a part you will play in this in the long run, or could play. And I don't think that you understand the depth of what's going on and the things that are going on because I haven't seen you at the meetings that I go to. So I want to encourage you to get involved as much as the supervisors are, and even Grace, who comes here and who's been out of it, she is up to date on everything. And I think that you're a little bit behind because I haven't seen you there. So I want to encourage you to follow through with this and come here really well informed. Because most of us are more informed than you are, and it's supposed to work the other way around. So thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you, Fred. I don't think anybody knows how many meetings we go to and how much work we do, but thanks for the kick in the butt.
My name is Nita Still. I live in Yreka.
Hi, Nina.
To the city council and city manager. Way back in 2009, Siskiyou County voted almost 80% to keep the dams. Just because your attorney told you to vote neutral regarding the dams, you do not have to do it. I know some of you want to keep the dams. Let's be realistic here. Because we are told to vote neutral, because you were told to vote neutral on KRRC. Would not, oh dear, I went over this thing 1,000 times, and some of you would want to keep the dams. Let's be realistic here, because the homes for people, flora, fauna, along the river will be damaged. I heard KRRC was going to remove the Fall Creek pipe 10 feet up or down from where it was. So, as Steve said, KRRC, they were going to have to fill the tanks up before they do any manipulation with our dams. And with the, oh dear, and it should be up to KRRC to handle, to create this. There should have been a contract between Yreka and KRRC to maintain Yreka's water supply, and it should be up to KRRC to create it. After all, they want our dams taken out because of a fish that is not even indigenous to this area, as well as getting a law passed so they could kill suckerfish while the dams were being removed. The river will be much lower if the dams are removed. And Louise sent you an article about dams on the pipeline on the Mississippi River. And they're putting it underneath, not on top, which is much better for the pipeline. It won't deteriorate as rapidly.
3 minutes are up, Nita.
We want you to make a contract with KRRC about securing our underground pipeline for water, and then tell them your position is no longer political, it is the truth. You want to keep the perfectly good dams, and they've been pronounced as perfectly good dams. Saying you are neutral goes against 85% vote in Yreka that voted to keep the dams. FERC has not made a decision yet, and KRRC is acting like they already have permission to do whatever they want. There will have to be a ditch dug for the pipe to be converted, to be covered, because the water will not be deep enough to cover the pipe. All of this must be done before the dam removal, which is yet to be sanctioned by FERC. There are also many selfish powers that be, which are behind our dam removal. The United Nations and their NGO stakeholder environmentalists, and they consider flora and fauna persons with rights.
Thank you, Nita. You're at 7.5 minutes now. It's over your 3 and 5 minutes.
I can't hear you, but I'll finish.
Okay. Thank you, dear. Okay, let's start over. Where'd Rob go? Rob Chango.
Rob.
I thought you were next.
You put him on the spot.
Rob has said I can have his number.
Oh, good.
Okay,
So you
Bob.
get his 3 then?
Yeah, 3.
So give me a break,
Rob's
would
too?
you please?
I thought it was
Mr.
5. Okay, hi, Bob Rice. Welcome.
When you approach 90, you have to keep your brains in a folder. I want to share with you a little bit, and I totally agree with what Matt said, but only to the point of protecting our water. That's my issue tonight that I'm going to try to present to you. And during the course of the last 2.5 years, Joni, I'm not sure, when we got together, Joni and Rob and the attorney
Dusty.
and I and the city manager got together, and I made a presentation during 2 sessions that said simply, we've got to protect our water.
Right.
And the protection of water is designed around Fall Creek. I have visited Fall Creek several times. In fact, I was there Thursday of last week. And I noticed that the old location where they kept the 1948 hatchery, the foundations are still there. And that reminds me of something else. So in my presentation, which I timed for 5 minutes, if I read it,
I know, go ahead.
I'll go ahead. I have reread and reread the urban water plan that was designed in 2010 for the city of Yreka. I suggest all of you take a look at that when you get a chance, because that's the basis for what I'm going to talk about. Socially and economically, it represents 3,000 connections. 3,000 connections identified for water use and demands for electric power from 10 years ago. That's changed, and that's changed considerably in a 10-year period. Pacific Corps under California and Oregon Utility District Codes for operation regions are, and you may make a note, federally designated under Public Law 115270. 115270 was a Senate procedure that took place in 2018. And when I represented with the city manager and 2 city council people and attorney, 2018 had not been passed. But that was a piece of legislation that was presented by Senator Klobuchar, and you're seeing her quite a bit lately on TV. The interesting thing about 115270 is there's a section called 4308, and 4308 deals entirely with the Klamath River. The sneaky term, if you want to call it that I use, is called covered power use. And the reason it's covered power use is it has 2 responsibilities. 1, to generate power, and 2, to transmit water. This is a very first time that the U.S. Congress has put into place an opportunity for putting the position of transmitting water in connection with the operation of the power facility. That changes a whole lot of things going on in the development of what we would refer to as the franchise agreement with Siskiyou County. And I'm meeting with them shortly to go over that whole franchise agreement with new additions. Pacific Corps' hydroelectric facility and Yreka's urban water plan are classic examples that respond to the sense of Congress and position of the Corps of Engineers is to protect and enhance that mission. Protect and enhance that mission. It's not Fish and Wildlife. It is not the coastal people, National Marine Fisheries Service. It's not the state of California's Fish and Game. It is now assigned to the Army Corps of Engineers. That's a big difference in what we have been playing with. Technically, Pacific Corps and the Klamath River Renewal Corporation transmitted in 2016 an agreement. The 2 have been into an agreement. And during that particular agreement, they say specifically that they have not prepared for the basic needs of the city. And I'm going to refer a little bit to that in a moment. Gotta stay with my notes, folks. I'm sorry about that. I used to be able to do this without even looking at one of them. The settlement agreement recitals in that particular 2016 document will mortgage Fall Creek's covered power system and this technical experiment to provide a vocational water passageway for anatomy fish species to travel 40 miles has never been endorsed or proven. There's genetic problems associated with taking the current salmon population and asking them to go another 40 miles beyond Upper Klamath, or excuse me, up above Iron Dam. There is a system that we are pursuing, we meaning a number of people are pursuing, that will make an opportunity available to see whether or not the anatomous fish species will survive. And they have to be able to survive because that's the reason, folks, that they want to remove the dams. They have to go through 6 different water exposures that are different than the 3 they've just been through to get the hatchery. And on top of that, in order to do that, they've got to be able to climb and go over 3 ladders. One at J.C. Boyle, one at Klamath River, Keno, and one at Lynx. Can you imagine you all know what the fish look like when they end up here? Can you think of them being able to go another 40 miles and then go over those? I'm a biologist and I say it isn't gonna happen. 7 years ago, I may be off by 2, the Oregon State Resources people planted 200,000 whitefish. If any of you are familiar with whitefish, you know they're a relative of the salmon. 200,000 were planted in Upper Klamath Lake. All died in the thing. And I mean, not died because they were at that age, because they weren't. They were fingerlings and smolts and of that size, and at the end of the season, they were dead. Can you expect the salmon, after traveling 190 miles, to make it all the way up there? I can't believe it. Yreka is a major player in this whole issue because you hold a significant water right, and have become a covered power utility because, or covered powered authority, because you have a dam in your development area. So you are a covered power authority, and that puts you into the 115-270 category. I have prepared and it's presented to selected members of Pacific Corps, what, Tony, 2 years ago, 3 years ago?
Yeah, I think it was about 2, Rob, you were still on.
Here's what it looked like.
3.
And Rob had a copy. I don't know what he did with it. But here's the document. There's 42 documents in here that will support the options that you choose when you decide to move on with Fall Creek. One of the difficulties that exist is that the agreement between the power company and KRRC calls for the removal of Pacific Corps' 7th appurtenance. 7th appurtenance. And that 7th appurtenance is the hatchery. Pacific Corps is the owner of that hatchery. So if they're the owner of that hatchery and they wish to move it to the location that was abandoned in 1948 by a fish hatchery, they have to take the water that is available to them today at Iron Gate, which is 50 cubic feet a second, and take it out of Fall Creek. There's no other place to take it. It's got to come out of Fall Creek in order to satisfy the relocation of that particular facility. Currently, they have 50 cubic feet dedicated to the Iron Gate hatchery today. So, that put me in a position with your urban water plan to see what they had to say about these kinds of situations. And what they said specifically was that there's risks with the current water system for City of Yreka. And that risk is associated with the fact that the average flow for Pacific Corps, or for the river coming out of Oregon, is 33 annually cubic feet a second. 33. Where the hell are you going to get the 50? So we've taken another step, and that is that the only power facility left as a result of the work that's going on with KRRC is a small amount of power generation, clean power generation, out of Upper Klamath and Keno. Upper Klamath, period. Keno does not have a power system. where in the world is all of that 160 megawatts of power gonna come from, except to go to the grid? What does the grid produce? Coal and fossil fuel. We're sitting with the cleanest water that exists. Okay, my end of the speech, I will say.
You're at 10 minutes, you've got your
I still
3,
got 10
Rob's
minutes?
3, and his 3. No.
I'm done here shortly, and I'm sorry. I just want you to know that I do not support the poorly timed negotiation ploy KRC is presenting through the fabrication of changing or improving the pipeline. You have more important things to deal with the protection of your water and the addition to the supply of water than to fool around at this point in time with changing the pipe. So there you are, I agree with you. My last comment
Thank you for the
is the
history
heartbeat
lesson.
of Siskiyou County and its capital city residents is the river. Great care and technical research is a must in the continued management of California's most precious place to live.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Bob.
Thank you, Bob.
Thanks for all your good work. Okay, thank you. Yes, sir, come on down. Welcome.
Thank you.
Would you state your name and where you're
This is
from?
for legal counsel and city council members. Yes, well,
Your name?
Daniel Simon. I'm 315 3rd Street, Suite 9, here, of course, in Yreka. And I wanted to let you know why I'm here. Well,
We're not gonna do another 10 minutes, okay?
I have my own timer here. I
Okay,
can't
good.
see the time. Anyway, but I'm a big supporter of preserving the dams. Let's leave the dams here, okay? Got an email from Luis Galato today, and there was the position of the city being neutral, which I think was a misstatement by
It was.
Steve Baker, the city manager. I appreciate you clearing that up, that you have no position. Okay, so that's good. Well, I'm giving compliments. Matt, excellent presentation. It was really good, and I'm really glad you're protecting the city water supply line. One question, can you have a bigger pipe for future development? But, you know, you probably already
Put that
covered
down in the questions, Arthur, thank you.
Okay. Anyway, so, I'm also here to kind of help the city get out of a kind of a sticky, wicked political position, because people are gonna be very upset when they find out the city's position is neutral,
No,
when it's not. I know, it's what the paper reported, you clarified, thank you very much. I'm here to, I'm here today to present a motion for a dam preservation resolution committee. And I'll get into that in a little bit. But hearing this today, I figured, well, why don't I talk to Dwayne King about this? You know, I know where her shop is, he might be around. We work in the construction industry, so I'm like, okay, I know him. And he explained to me that the city's water supply is under renewal or something, and you guys can explain it a little bit better. So it is a touchy situation why you can't take a position, and so down the road, you're gonna have to take a position later, okay? So I understand that. Of course, a lot of people would like the city of Yreka to take a position supporting the preservation of the dams, okay? So you're in a difficult situation. I hope you guys explain that more so that some of the political backlash will kind of calm down. So what I'm wanting to see, I'm gonna go ahead and read you the motion I have prepared, which I just passed around.
Where are we at now, Cindy? Are we at 3
I'm at
minutes?
2.
Only at 3.
We're at 3 minutes, so you can wrap it up.
Okay, I'll try to do this quickly. All right. So the Dam Preservation Resolution Committee, this is the concept, it would have to be a motion by one of you. Here's the motion. I move or motion that a committee be formed of 1 or 2 city council members and up to 5 Yreka citizens for the development of a resolution supporting the following dams to remain in place: Iron Gate Dam, Copco 1 Dam, Copco 2 Dam. Said committee will provide said written resolution at a future city council meeting for a vote by the council. Said committee shall be chaired by a city council member. Said citizens for the committee shall be selected by the chair. The committee shall be titled Dam Preservation Resolution Committee. I thought about a name, you call it Dam Committee.
That damn committee, yeah.
So anyway, I threw together just today a draft resolution. It's obviously subject to change pursuant to the committee. But at least what is, as a political position, at least you guys are doing something. Take the heat off of you for what Steve Baker did. And of course, citizens can go ahead and give input to the committee. And at least you'd be getting going on this. You know, yeah, several people inputting on this resolution, and they can present more information, et cetera, and you don't have to, you know, if the resolution's done, you can take a vote to delay the vote because of your position with affirming your water supply, okay? But anyway, you can delay that vote, but at least the city would be doing something working towards that. And so if this resolution is actually passed by committee, it would come back for a vote here. All right. So once you have a resolution by committee, essentially what you would be having is you'd have a bullet in the chamber, but you keep your hands off the trigger, okay? And it would take some heat off of you folks. So anyway, I would encourage consideration of this motion. Maybe somebody makes a motion. I'm sure we can find 5 citizens that would work on the committee.
This is an information-only item.
Yeah, this is information, it's an idea.
No, I meant item number 3.
Yeah.
We can't make a motion tonight. It's information only.
Oh, it's just tonight's only information.
We can bring, but we can bring it back, so.
At some time in the
Yes.
future.
Okay, well, there's for your consideration.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Danny.
Okay, any other comments from the public? If not, then we will start. Mary Frances, do you have anything to say? Well, come on down. We'd love to hear from you. For those of you that don't know, Mary Frances McHugh was our city attorney for a number of years, and she's now retired. And welcome back, Mary Frances. It's good to see you.
Thank you all. Thank you all for all of your work and your contribution that you make to our community. We really appreciate it. I just have a couple of questions, and perhaps you could address them when you give answers. I'd like to know, and it's hard to determine when you're digging around online, but I'd like to know what the status is of the FERC proceedings. I understand that there has been a division between the project, and it's been 10 years since I touched this, but that now there's the Lower Klamath project separated from the Upper Klamath hydroelectric project, and okay. So what's pending? What's the next step? And I know that KRRC has filed a definite plan, whatever that is. How does that play in to where we are now? If that'll help, it'll help me to kind of understand this. Thank you all very much. It's good to see you.
Thank you, Mary Frances. Good to see you too. Okay, are there any other comments? If there are not, we'll start going down the questions. And Arthur and Retta and Cindy, could somebody get it put on the screen, please?
Maybe.
Bring it here, let's see what we can do.
If not, we need a whiteboard or.
Okay,
We
well,
need a back- we
if you
need some
can't,
paper.
I just thought it would be nice for people to see and make sure that we captured their questions.
Yeah.
But Arthur, would you like to read the first question and then we'll get started?
Maybe you should do that from the podium so it's caught.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, you can read it from the podium. There you go.
I just want a recap of.
Yeah, just read the questions one at a time, please.
Okay.
And not redundant questions, okay?
Curious about article in newspaper saying that city is neutral on dams being taken out.
Okay, and I think that I made that clear. City has not come out with a position as neutral. The city does not have a position. That position, that decision was made long before any of us were on this council.
Is that neutral?
No, it's no position. It's no position. It's no position. No, 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 not legally. If you talk to my friend Lisa, who's an attorney, she said that's not true. Right, Lisa? Legally. Legally, that's not true.
So that wasn't my question. My question was, what will you do to clarify that? That was my question, not.
That's a good question, and we can ask our attorney.
Well, we've started this is part of the process
Yes.
right here,
This
yeah,
is-
because we do need to clarify it.
Yes, we do.
We need to clarify, because that was
Yep.
definitely not what we are. We are not neutral.
Thank you.
Okay. Got it? Okay. What's the second question, Arthur?
Oh, sorry, we were trying to get it to display loud.
But Donna, I also want to say that we can't combat, and I'm going to use the word garbage. The word garbage, the garbage is thrown around on the internet. And I see garbage, since I've come on council, I've seen so much garbage about me. Those that have known me for the 36 years I've lived here, hopefully they know, yeah, oh, I know that. But because of that, then we've got the secondary,
Right.
which, and a lot of what I've read in the last 2 weeks, my wife will come on and go, did you see this? And I go, not true. Did you see it? Not true. It's like, because it's just, people go back and forth and they're gonna say whatever they want. So yes, this is a time when we're beginning the process to clear that out.
And our attorney will help us. Right, Don? Did you want to speak?
Well, I think
For those of you who don't know, this is Don Henyon. He's our attorney. He's been our attorney, I believe, since Mary Frances left.
Right.
Yes. Pardon?
2012.
2012.
12, time flies, isn't it? She's been the chief executive officer of the court, and now it's finally,
Yes.
and I
Happily
hope your
so.
husband is too.
Yes, he is.
Good,
Yeah, Joe's
good.
retired.
No, it was actually Mary Frances and the water attorneys that we had back when they were negotiating.
Can everyone hear him?
Yeah, okay, well, no more talking. We had some back here. Everything's okay.
Okay.
Now.
I got it.
Use the mic.
It was actually
There
Mary
is a mic
Frances
right in front of him.
and our water attorneys that had come up with the idea of keeping an open dialogue with all the parties so that we could protect our water system. They drafted
long
some
time
very good language, which was incorporated in the Klamath Settlement Agreement, which, as Attorney Nixon told us, we are a third-party beneficiary of, but because of a clause in that contract, we have no enforceable rights. But by keeping an open dialogue with many diverse parties, Yreka's water system is probably the only issue that is not opposed by any party to any of the negotiations that we frequently attend. And now, let me just give you a list of
agencies we talk
The
to regularly,
agencies.
Grace. Well,
Yeah.
no, we're gonna tell you.
Yeah. So Pacific Hornets attorneys, political involvement, Senator Merkley, Senator Wyden, Senator Harris, Modoc County Supervisors, Klamath County Supervisors, Siskiyou County Supervisors, Delnart County Supervisors. We have intervened in the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission, made our comments on their draft DEIR, environmental documents, making sure that anything to do with affecting our water is commented on, and wanting actual facts, not just illusory statements. And that is the agency that's going to decide whether or not the dams will come down or not. And as Lisa explained to you, that is far from decided. To answer Mary Frances's question, about a week ago, Pacificor, or actually KRRC, filed a petition saying that, well, FERC had appointed a board of consultants, and this board of consultants had asked KRC to address a number of these questions, like what are you going to do if you don't have enough money? What's your alternatives? What's alternate funding? That sort of thing. Supervisor Nixon has told you that she does not feel that those questions were adequately answered, or that there's enough insurance to cover it. But we have the protections that ex-Councilwoman Bennett, ex-Mayor Bennett, Supervisor Bennett dug up out of the amended climate settlement agreement, and part of that is that the parties to the agreement, which are Oregon and California state regulatory natural resources agencies, all agree that they will not oppose the city's continued use of its water under its permit, and that they'd pay for the relocation replacement of the water line and transmission facilities, and they'd also pay for the assessment, mitigation, or funding to address any impacts arising from the implement of the settlement. Now, part of that, those impacts are a hatchery being built next to our water diversion facility. And of course, they're going to be raising fish in there. It's going to be a much smaller facility. It's not going to take 50 CFS. They've only got a water right of 10 CFS. So they have to make it fit that. In order to live alongside a hatchery where we have a senior water right to this fish hatchery that's going to have endangered species in it, we are putting together a habitat conservation plan, which will protect the city against any damages to the hatchery if we have to turn the spigot off and kill their fish. So obviously, we have to engage with all of the wildlife agencies in order to negotiate all of these terms. And so besides FERC, we've appeared before someone that Mr. Wiest had kindly made us aware of, the Klamath River Basin Compact. Due to my haranguing of the chair that hadn't met in 10 years. They had a meeting, and I appeared in front of the meeting. I asked that our issue be brought up in front of the meeting, and I've talked to both the voting member of the compact and their attorney, and they have agreed that if we end up having an irreconcilable difference with any of these wildlife agencies, then they'll bring up our issue in front of the compact, because, as you know, it's federal, state, and Oregon law that it has control over the use of water out of the Klamath Basin, and domestic water has the #1 use. Fish and game use is #3. So we deal with the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Agency, the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, and the National Marine Fisheries Service, and that's because of the Endangered Species Act, and they want and they're going to raise cohos in that hatchery. We deal with the U.S. Geological Survey, the Department of the Interior, especially the Bureau of Reclamation and its solicitors, the U.S. EPA, Region 9, Water Division, the U.S. Department of Agriculture. We deal with these California regulatory agencies, the California Natural Resources Agency and its attorneys, the Department of California Department of Fish and Wildlife and its attorneys, the Wildlife Conservation Board, Cal EPA, the State Water Resources Control Board, and the North Coast Water Quality Control Board. For Oregon, we deal with Oregon Department of Environmental Quality, Oregon Watershed Enhancement Board, the Oregon Department of Forestry, the Oregon Department of Agriculture, the Office of the State Governor of Oregon, the Oregon Water Resources Department, and the Oregon Farm Bureau. We have to deal with tribal nations. We deal with the Bureau of Indian Affairs, the Klamath tribes, which are way up in Klamath Lake there, and the Yurok tribe, the Hoopa tribe, and the Karuk tribe. We have to deal, as whenever you're dealing with environmental issues and natural wildlife issues, and there is environmental organizations that are involved. And we have to talk to and keep an open dialogue with the Pacific Coast Federation of Fishermen's Association, which is a commercial fishing association, but it is the most litigious, environmentally active agency there is. They're very accomplished environmental law attorneys, and we get along just fine with them. The Institute for Fisheries Resources, Sustainable Northwest, Trout Unlimited, Waterfowl Association, California Waterfowl, Ducks Unlimited, Trout Unlimited, Cal Trout, Sustainable Northwest, the Oregon Hunters Association, the Nature Conservancy, and the Shasta Watershed Conservation Group. Plus, not to give short shift to any of the ranchers, farmers, and irrigators, we deal and have an open dialogue and a friendly, commensalistic relationship with the Siskiyou County Water Users, the Family Water Alliance, the Family Farm Alliance, Medford Irrigation District, the California Waterfowl Association, the California Farm Bureau Federation, the various ranchers and irrigators, the Kitimas Reclamation District, the Rogue Valley Irrigation District, the Ben Duval Farm Inc., the Klamath Water Users Association, the Medford Irrigation District, the Upper Basin Irrigators, the Rogue Valley Irrigation District, the Upper Basin Water Users Association, the California Farm Bureau, and the Rogue Valley Irrigators. And thanks to Mary Frances' decision that we should keep an open dialogue with all of these people, none of them are after our water. Our water has agreed to, all the way up by the Bureau of Reclamation, the guy that's the advisor to the Secretary of the Interior is on our side. And you really can't get much better than that.
And
So,
that could change if we weren't at the table.
Oh,
So
it's only because-
I have a saying, it's if you're not at the table, you're on the menu. We would rather not have our water be on the menu, so we attend all the meetings that we can, we discuss with all of these agencies, because we want, every time I get to a meeting, I say, I'm Joan Smith Freeman, I'm mayor of the city of Yreka, and I'm here to protect our water. So it's gotten to the point, they've heard it so many times, they start nodding as soon as I start talking, and we have support for keeping our water. And Mary Frances and I had a chat last week, and we were talking about whether or not our water could be taken. There are ways that they can take our water. We are there to make sure they don't take our water. We've got the cleanest, coldest water on the entire Klamath River. It's the coldest refugia, and we're gonna keep it.
Question.
Oh, yeah.
Question, Don. I heard Bob Rice say the Army Corps of Engineers has some jurisdiction over, and I didn't hear that in the agencies you deal with.
and they're not involved in any of these meetings, and that was my first hearing of that, so I'll look that up and see what that's all about.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yep.
that's interesting.
When I was on the Klamath River Basin Fisheries Task Force, they were a part of it, the Army Corps of Engineers.
Yeah, it's interesting that they were before and they're not now.
Yeah. Weird.
Yeah.
Okay,
Go back to the question.
anything else? Yeah, I was gonna say, what's the next question, Arthur?
Can we have a bigger pipe for future development?
Oh, Matt, that's a question for you.
So when the initial plans were drawn for our intake structure at Fall Creek, they ended up with a 24-inch pipe. A 24-inch pipe is capable of carrying the 15 CFS, which is what our water right is. So there was no point in putting a larger pipe because we don't have the water. And so if we were to look at an upsizing of the pipe, then we'd have to be looking for where to get the water to put in it, which is a gigantic legal battle for this guy, because I'm the pipes guy. And so really, I would foresee the next, should the city ever grow to a point that we need to go over our existing water rights, that we would be looking closer to home, other than out 24 miles from town. We would be looking at upsizing our existing backup wells, putting them online full-time, drilling more wells, looking for local, closer to Yreka water. And that's something that the water manager, Rob Taylor, and I have talked about at length for a decade. As two local guys that think there's probably some good water that could be added to our system should we need to
You wanna come
upsize.
down, Grace? You wanna come down? You don't wanna come down? Well, we don't want people yelling from their seats,
Oh,
so you'll
and-
be setting a precedent.
Madam Mayor?
Yes.
Since I started answering Mary Frances' question on the current state
Yes.
of the FERC proceedings, shall I finish it?
Oh, certainly, go ahead.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to
So,
interrupt you.
yeah, I lost my train of thought apparently. That petition has been made, but California has now run its draft environmental impact report. It hasn't had a final one, and the NEPA process hasn't started. So without starting the NEPA process, I mean, who knows when this is going to be decided, right? So according to the law, you're supposed to have a joint CEQA and NEPA process whenever there's a substantial federal involvement. They didn't do it that way. We objected personally in our response to that not being done appropriately. And as far as KRC is concerned, they've given them all the information. Now it's up to FERC to decide whether they will take what's been handed to them, or whether they will ask more questions, or whether they will dismiss the petition. Now, right now, all the dams have been out of licensure for 10, 15 years. And they've severed off the dams that they're asking to be decommissioned from their other dams that they own, which is like the one next to our water facility. But they've asked that the FERC hold in abeyance any decision or any requirement of licensing or decisions towards those smaller hydroelectric facilities until they've decided whether they're going to remove the dams or not. Because obviously, if Pacificor's stuck with keeping all the dams running, it's going to keep all the dams running and do whatever fish improvement it's got to do. So that's up in the air. Okay?
That's where we are with FERC.
And we've
It's still up
intervened.
in the
We're
air.
officially in the proceedings.
After all these years.
Yeah.
Okay. Grace?
I have a question for that.
Okay.
And I do understand that these negotiations are very, very complicated, and I've been in a lot of these kinds of negotiations.
Right.
And I do appreciate all the work that everybody does. But I have my misgivings about this whole situation, just so you understand that. But Matt, how much water does the city use now in the summertime and in the wintertime? If you can give us some sort of an idea of how many CFS we use in conjunction with the 15 that we are allowed.
Sure, I'm going to lean to Dawn a little bit on this because in our field world where I like to live, other than my office, we talk in MGD, which is million gallons a day. So there's kind of a difficulty in a clean conversion from MGD to CFS, but hopefully Dawn can help me clarify this. So on an average hot day, middle of summer, Yreka, everybody's washing their car. Let's say this is before the water restrictions that were placed on us by the state a few years ago. We all learned our lesson that summer, by the way. We all use a lot less water, if you didn't know that, from that one summer where we were shut down. So we will hum the system, is what we call it, where the guys that I work with when we're in the field, there's something in the air when you're in the street that day and you can't quite put your finger on it. It's because the system is humming, and we're literally pushing 6.5 million gallons of water a day to you. So that's an unfathomable number to most people, 6.5 MGD. So if you look at the tanks around town, the average size tank around town is 250 gallons. Those things are just dropping and floating and dropping and floating, and they're balancing from one to the other, and we're just, like I say, humming the system. That said, when I speak with Dawn and we start talking about bypass CFS, how much can we take? What is our water right? What is the hatchery need? I want to lean on you for that CFS number.
Yeah. It looks to date like the most we've taken is 9 CFS.
Okay. So Grace, it's 9 CFS would be the most we've ever taken. So that would about equate to that 6.5 MGD that I spoke to.
Is that a daily take? Is that what you're talking about, the 9?
That's peak usage.
It's the cubic feet per second,
Right.
which our right says we can take,
Right, daily.
and we have to put past.
Right.
And so we're under our max.
That's good, but we have room for growth.
Yeah.
Yes.
1 cubic foot is 7.4 gallons.
Right.
7.48.
Right. So it's a lot more than it sounds like, I agree.
Thank you.
Bob?
I wanted to quickly respond. I'm sorry I didn't have a chance to mention it earlier because I was working on a time limitation. I would share with first the attorney. And number one, nobody has talked in this room tonight about the reason why the dams are to be removed. And that reason is, and I don't know if you've talked about it or all your attorneys have talked about it, but that reason is they want to move salmon 40 miles. And if they're going to move salmon 40 miles and they can't because of a study that says they won't make it, why the heck are we removing the dams? That's a point that I would make, and maybe you should make, to all of those people you're conversing with. Number 2, and it goes back to Matt.
So you're talking, let me just answer that. That's probably why it didn't pass Congress.
It did pass Congress.
Okay,
You know
then
what
not the
Congress
same-
said?
What?
No federal funds will be used, and this is in the legislation that I talked about. No federal funds will be used to remove the dams.
Okay, now, we're going back to the amended climate settlement agreement, and the printouts that I got said that it didn't even get a committee meeting.
I can't help it, the bill was passed in 2018, and read section 4308, and you will find out that the situation in Siskiyou County relates directly to covered power use for the transmittal of water and the transmittal of power. Back to the transmittal of water. I spent 7 days on the witness stand with 5 attorneys going through this stuff. And I back up and I will say to you and anybody else in your attorney group, get a hold of that piece of legislation and see what it says. because it puts the situation that exists right today is the fact that the authority to either keep or remove the dams is Siskiyou County Board of Supervisors, not FERC. FERC only deals with power up until 2018. Now they have to deal with both power and water. And that's the principal point that I tried to make,
I took
and I
notes.
get nowhere.
Okay.
So I'm sorry about that, but.
I'll check it out.
But I've been studying this for now since 1981. And the reason that I have been engaged in all of this study is because of a little thing called Wild and Scenic River. I was the author and got the approval through the Congress, okay? And the reason that that river has become wild and scenic is because the dam, the Iron Gate Dam, regulates the flow of water so salmon have a sufficient way of getting to the hatchery. End of speech.
Thank you, Bob.
Thank you, Bob.
Okay, are there any more, Arthur, with questions? No, I meant, are your questions,
Yeah.
did we cover all the questions that people had asked previously?
Yes.
Okay, great. Okay, so we've got about 6 more items on our agenda to get through, that we're gonna try to get through before midnight tonight. So I wanna thank you all for coming and for expressing your opinion. We truly appreciate you being here. Thank you. Anybody need a potty break?
Yeah.
Need a potty break? Okay. Hey, Matt, you got the keys for the potty break?
Since we don't have a new facility. We still need to.
Who's, you know who the owner of Civic Corps is, right?
What's that?
Civic Corps? Yeah, Warren Buffett, Berkshire Hathaway. I'm looking at the public law right now, trying to find.
Really?
Yeah. It's a long document.
Okay, I wanna stand up.
Rob started the book and it's very good.
Thank you, Don. Good job. And I think you're doing better than Barely. On the fly. On the fly. Yeah. And reading daily went out. That's what I said.
Well, I looked really bad, the true trees after that one
I
fell.
gave him a hard time. I said,
But I told my wife, I better get dressed. It's gorgeous. Yeah. I'll make I'm gonna paint that, I want to have a form outside primers, yeah.
And it didn't like that.
Has it ever been plugged in for gold monitors? Yeah. That's what it is, yeah.
But the thing about this, I was using mine when I was with Matt earlier today, I had it hooked up, everything worked just fine. And so, when I went back to my desktop account was locked. So I thought I unlocked it. And then when I tried to go to my laptop, that was locked. And so I tried having to log in, and it said the only account that's logged in can unlock the computer. So if my account is locked,
gentlemen, please take your seats. And where's the lady? Oh, please take your seat. Hey, how come you didn't talk? They weren't listening, they were talking.
Not us.
That's okay, it broke up the
That's
tension,
the reason
right?
why I wanted to do that.
Okay, we are on
Look at
item
Bob
number
Rice.
4.
Look at Bob Rice, 90 is the new 60.
He's almost 90.
Yeah, he looks good.
He does, and he's.
I just
his
hope to live that
brain-
long.
Yeah.
His brain works.
So
Yeah.
I'm going to be
I
that
think we had
sharp.
a lot of good comments here.
Yes, well, all the comments were good, I think. People were, it was
Very
good.
thoughtful.
We needed to
Is
hear
it rolling, Liz? Item number 4, discussion, possible action, adopt resolution approving requests associated with annual special events to be held in 2020. Okay, Matt Bray, are you,
Sure, and Cindy can back me up.
Okay, no, I think it's Arthur.
No, it's
No, Cindy.
That's not what Steve told me.
No, this one's me.
Oh,
Yes,
this
it
one's
says
yours.
right on it, Cynthia.
Back you up.
Okay.
Shall I
Matt,
start then?
Cindy.
Cindy.
I meant as opposed to, but anyway. Madam
Of
Mayor,
course.
members of council, what we have for you tonight is essentially a blanket resolution so that we can take care of 3 very routine, very smooth annual events at the same time. This way we can essentially, instead of chasing down our sponsors, we can go ahead and handle the events and then do the rest afterward. And if you have any questions, let me know.
Okay, I see something about a $500 deposit for park rental.
We do that with the JMBA.
What's a JMBA?
Jefferson
Mountain Bike
Oh,
Association.
Jefferson Mountain Bike Association, okay, and what
It-
about the
it's a
concerts
deposit.
in the park?
Okay.
Concerts in the park?
Concerts in the park is not on this one
No.
because we already did that in the
Oh.
prior.
Okay.
Just Easter egg hunt, humbug, hurry up, and Yreka High School
Right.
cross country.
I
Okay.
do actually have a question.
Okay,
Is it okay?
of course. Please.
Okay, my concern was, yes, these events are great, wonderful, I'm for it, yes.
Yeah.
But occasionally it changed hosts. So,
We would bring it back if something changed, is the idea, yes.
Yeah, it's my understanding that whoever it is that's putting on the event, or whoever it is that's providing the insurance for putting on the event, has, I mean, they have to fill that out, and they
I
have
know,
to
that's why I
sign.
didn't wanna say, yes, these could events,
Right.
events could happen.
Right.
If the same people did it, that's fine, but the minute they change, like the balloon fair,
Right,
Yep, exactly. It
don't know if
changes
the
hands.
insurance
Yeah.
that's
is
true.
in place.
So it's
right?
just these 3 events then?
Right.
Yes.
So it's Easter egg hunt, the Humbug Hurry Up, like you said, the Jefferson Mountain Bike Association, and the Yreka High School Cross Country Races. Does anyone have a question, or?
I'll make the motion to adopt a resolution approving requests associated with annual special events to be held in 2020 as listed in resolution 2020-7.
I'll second it.
Okay, I have a motion and a second to approve item number 4. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed,
Aye.
same sign. Okay, motion carries. Thank you, Cindy. Okay, item number 5, discussion possible action, California Employers Pension Pre-Funding Trust Program. That sounds a lot like Retta.
Yeah, it's gotta be Retta.
Yes, so what a good read, right?
What is it?
Yeah.
40 pages? Oh, no, it's only 26.
So
No pages.
I'm gonna go kind of faster than normal, because I know we're trying to get through several agenda items yet.
He's
But
in a hurry.
this is at year end, we made a resolution to put into designated reserves 1.2 million.
Right.
The next step was we came back met with the Audit and Investment Committee to, whether we should move forward with, seeking a pension trust fund, and we issued the RFP. We had 2 respondents. We had, PARS and CalPERS both responded. We reviewed both proposals on January 15th. Met with the Audit, Debt, and Investment Committee to kind of go over the pros and cons of each of the proposals, and evaluated on the merit as shown here was experience, cost, and staff knowledge. Like I said, both were equally qualified to do it. However, it was the consensus of the committee to establish a IRS Section 115 trust with CalPERS at that time. So, so the committee wanted to move forward with that, and that's what I'm presenting to you this evening. I contacted CalPERS, and basically they gave me the information that was required to establish the trust with them, and include some resolutions that are included here tonight to establish the trust, pre-funding trust program agreement, and then delegation of authority to request disbursements from the pre-funding trust. And And then further authorizes the city manager or his delegate to execute the necessary documents with CalPERS. And recommendation, initial adoption, you can change your mind as you go into the funding of a moderately aggressive investment strategy. And that's what we're in right now with, as you recall, our OPEB trust. And so if you have any questions, I can certainly answer those at this time for that, or the committee, because they were involved each step.
Norm?
When we make the motion, can we combine those two resolutions, or does each resolution have to be separate?
Each was separate as, these were blanketed from CalPERS.
However, the motion can combine it. They can adopt them.
Correct, thank you, Liz.
Okay.
So, any questions, or do I have a motion?
Well, I would make a motion that we approve Resolution 2020-6, California Employers Pension Pre-Funding Trust Program Agreement, and election of City of Yreka to pre-fund employer contributions to a defined benefit pension plan. Resolution 2020-5, delegating authority to request disbursements, California Employees Pension Pre-Funding Trust. And we authorize the city manager as delegate authority to execute the necessary documents with CalPERS to fund and maintain participation in the trust. And we recommend initial adoption of a moderately aggressive investment strategy number 2.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Does anyone have a question, or does everyone understand this? It's not 100% pre-funded.
No.
No.
Right.
Oh, no.
No, this just
It
makes
would
it,
break us.
Yeah.
it makes a good dent in our unfunded pension
Right.
liabilities.
It'll take us a few years.
Yeah,
It's got a
It'll take
motion and a
several
second.
million, yeah.
several million years.
It took us 10
Well, no.
several million
Okay,
years.
okay, we have a motion.
I'm not staying for all of that.
Yeah.
We have a motion on the floor in a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, motion carries. Thank you, Retta.
Yes, thank
And
you.
thank
It's a
you
very
to
good
our
start.
Thanks,
budget committee. It's not called the budget committee. What's it
Audit,
called?
debt,
Audit,
Audit
debt, and
committee.
something committee.
It's a very good start.
Thank you, guys. It's on this side of it.
And I don't miss it at all.
No, I
No,
bet.
I'm sure.
I don't
Norm
either.
knows his stuff.
I don't either. Okay, so we're on to number 6, City Treasurer's Report. Retta.
Right, so this is the quarterly report for the quarter ending December 2019. The good news on this, cash overall 26.9 million is our outstanding cash balance. We went up over the month. As you recall, in December, we receive our property tax allocation from the county, so that's a big one because it comes on December 10th and then again on April 10th for that. So strong cash balance positions for us, and I'm just going to jump a little bit forward on the budget to actual. We're on track for the year thus far into our anticipated revenues for the general fund, and also for our enterprise funds as well. Those are much more stable, because I can tell monthly where we are. But again, on general fund, our core revenue is coming in on track. And though it looks like we're down at being half a year, because we don't get our motor vehicle license fee in lieu until January.
Have a question?
I'm not following where you're at. Where
Okay,
you
could
at?
you tell us which chart you're on?
Yeah.
Oh,
Please.
thank you, I apologize. So this is the last one, the fiscal year to
Oh,
date.
the last one.
Oh, last
This one?
Performance
It's a
report.
little more complicated on the,
I apologize
No,
for
not this
being more
one.
clear.
The last page?
First page has the City of Yreka logo on it.
first page.
Okay, I got it.
And I'm looking at our, where it has on their adopted budget, revised budget, current. Sorry, I was trying to speed, go too fast on it.
I actually don't have that page.
If you go to the
more-
back.
There it is, it's
Yeah,
way back
More
there.
towards the
This
back.
page 1 of 8.
Yeah, one
Yeah,
of it.
gotcha.
And called physical performance report.
Right, now tell us about it.
Okay, so now I'm gonna dive in real fast. Let's try to slow down a bit.
I'm not gonna scroll through this online.
The good, what I'm wanted to address is that we're on track for the year, although it looks like we're a little bit behind. It's really lag time and timing of revenues that come on in. So, if you look at property tax, we got, in December, our allocation of property tax. So if you take that double up, it looks like we'll be ahead on property tax this year. The next, although we don't have any revenue on the next line item, motor vehicle license fee in lieu, that's not paid until January 15. It's paid January 15 and May 15.
we
So
haven't got
we
that.
just, right, so no flags here, it's not.
January 15th, it didn't come in?
No, it did,
Oh, it
but
did.
this is as of December.
Oh, okay.
So, what I just kind of wanted to point out is that we are on track. And of course, sales tax lags.
I was gonna say, how come it's down?
About a 2-month lag.
Correct.
Oh, it's a 2-month lag, so this
right.
is not through December.
Right, well,
Well,
it's sales tax through October.
We don't know what it
Yeah,
is yet.
In the last 2 months.
So I
That's
just,
right.
in
As soon as that
December, I
comes
get
through.
the information for
Okay.
October.
Okay. So when will we
Not
have
everything,
the
not all money
next,
comes in at the same
Pardon?
time.
when will we have the
We're
next
still on.
report?
You'll have the next report, the next quarter in March, and again, I'll still have the same lag, factors. And, but what I can tell is.
Yeah, but
in-
we'll be further ahead. We won't be 1.9 million
Million in a
behind.
hole.
Correct.
That's scary.
Yeah.
It's just accumulation of the year to date.
Okay.
So, it's actually, we're on track.
We're on track.
We're not
I guess that's the main thing we hear you say is we're on track.
Right.
Right. I'm not seeing any flags out there yet.
And TOT taxes, same thing? It's lagging?
TOT, that is actually, that has 5 months of revenue limit.
Oh, wow.
So it's
we're
actually,
still down 300,000.
well, we still have
7
7
months
months
to
to
go.
go
Yeah.
on there,
So we should pass it.
for that. But,
Have you done the Airbnbs yet? Did you send a letter to Airbnb? All you have to do is send a letter from the city stating that we want them to send us X amount of money, and
I
they
have-
will do it. The county
Yes.
did it, and they do send the money to them now. But they
Right.
won't send it if you don't ask for it.
right, I did reach out to Muriel because, I've tried to get a hold of the San Francisco Airbnb, so thank you for the lead on the county. I'll call over there. if they've
Yeah,
got
talk
an
to Wayne,
address.
Wayne Hammer.
Wayne got them. They're kind of nebulous to get a person and address of where to direct your letter.
Wayne tracked him down, he'll tell you.
Did he? Okay, great. I will.
Good.
I think there's 3 in town now.
Is
2
there?
or 3.
Really?
Oh, I think there's
Within
more.
city limits, and I saw an Airbnb site,
Okay.
so, but they're out there, so.
Okay.
That was,
Hey, every little bit helps.
Yeah.
it does. So thank you on that.
DOT.
But I just kind of wanted to call that out. Everything else, again, on track for that.
Looks like franchise fees are way behind.
Again, timing of when the revenue comes in, so it doesn't come in smoothly over the months. Our Pacific Power just came in January, so when I report out the quarterly, it'll look much better. They only pay once a year in January.
Okay.
But I did get saw the letter of payment on that. And then kind of going along,
Licenses and permits, same thing. That's way behind too.
right, so business license and, dog licensing renewals are kind of at the first of the year, so that's lagging
Usually
behind
takes it
also
till,
at that
what,
time.
March or something before you start seeing
Catch
that.
up.
Right, when the penalties come in, they
Yeah.
start.
Then they start paying it.
On that, for that, and then the other item, the, one good news, if you see the, adopted budget to revised budget slight increase, we got a little more allocation on our COPS allocation from the county, so about 55,000 there, so that's reflected in that.
Okay, so I don't understand fines and forfeitures. We've predicted $250, and yet we're in the hole $708.
That's an accrual reversal.
Well, wow.
So, and sometimes our booking fees exceed our, court revenue,
Oh.
Okay.
so,
Oh, wow.
hopefully by the next quarter, that'll flip around a little bit. It will close the year in a positive position of that, but yeah, that's, what that, it's in there. And great questions.
What's intergovernmental?
Yeah, that's what I was just gonna ask.
Intergovernmental is funding from other state agencies. So in that is also, we consider revenue coming in through the IGA, meaning a tribal. So that would be like the state's COPS allocation is done intergovernmental. The revenue received for reimbursement of the
Summit stuff?
Pardon?
Summit?
No, not the
That's a
Summit.
different line?
This
That's
is
a different
the
line.
general fund.
This is
Yeah.
general fund, so this is pursuant to the approved IGA where we get a reimbursement for the, one of the officers, as well as.
And one vehicle every 4 years.
Right, and then an allocation for the fire, a little bit there also, so it's reflecting that. So that is the largest portion of those intergovernmental revenues, is the IGA and the state cost allocations on that. And the Prop 172 allocation, which is about $30,000 a year on that.
And what's the ICA allocation?
LCA is indirect cost allocation, so it's reimbursement from the enterprise funds to the general funds for central services of legal and finance and payroll and things like that. So it's runs about, it runs between 12 to 15% a year. Cost recovery, it's a cost recovery back that the enterprise funds reimburse the general fund for those indirect costs. You might have heard it as indirect cost allocation at the county. They kind of all use a little bit different names on that.
So the only ones that are ahead are revenue other and gain loss on sales. They're ahead of prediction.
Well, again, we're just, it's the timing of when the cash payments are due.
This is
And-
not an accrual statement,
No.
this is an actual cash statement. On an accrual basis, things would look a lot different.
Okay.
Right.
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Okay. Public safety, and then street funds. So Matt and his crew's been busy on streets.
They
Well,
have.
that's revenue, and then expenses below it.
Yeah.
Right, so that's part of the paving project, and I think we're still expecting some invoices, also for that to come in, so that's gonna jump up. So you might wonder, how did we get expenses in a winter months, and, Matt kind of alerted me that the county was a little bit behind in invoicing for the summer work, some of the summer works.
They still haven't invoiced us for the chip seal projects that we did this
Oh,
summer.
they haven't,
They're coming,
from the county.
they're coming. We'll get it.
Good. Cool.
And I just, received word that probably will have an increase in, intergovernmental revenue for, the local transportation fund for the street allocation. I usually budget fairly conservatively on that, as it's kind of an unknown of how much will be residual from the stage
Right.
that will go to street.
That was local transportation funds
Yeah, I
that
think
I
it's
voted
coming in
on
at 72.
for projects for us,
I
right?
saw it, Cindy forwarded that to me the other day, yeah.
Good.
Okay.
Cool. So, any other questions? You guys see anything?
We will be kicking up and looking at these numbers a lot more as we kick into our biannual budget cycle this spring. So, some of the department heads I've asked them to already kind of look at goals and objectives, and that helps formulate their budgets.
We're in the second year of our budget, right? So
That's
we won't
right,
have
so-
another budget until next year.
No, we'll have one this
This year?
Spring.
Oh,
Yeah, we gotta-
So this is the second year,
Yeah, I'm sorry,
the third year.
This
We're-
is really a two-year cycle.
Two-year
Yeah,
budget
it's a
cycle.
two-year cycle.
Yeah,
So
so,
we're finishing, we'll
Second
have to
year.
develop a new one.
correct,
So
so
we
we're in
develop it for the
development for
following year.
2021,
Okay.
2022.
Okay. Alrighty. That's good. Any other questions?
No.
Do we,
I'd make a motion, then we accept the city treasurer's report.
Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to accept the treasurer's report. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, motion carries, yay. Item number 7, information item, Siskiyou Economic Development Council, proposal for Carnegie Building. So, we went out with an RFP. Oh, go ahead.
Isn't he still
No.
like?
Yes, he is. Arthur, please.
Madam Mayor, members of council, yes, we issued an RFP. We received one proposal from the Siskiyou Economic Development Council, which has been forwarded to council. He's drafting up a sales agreement, legal agreement.
Contract.
We're supposed to turn this into a business deal.
I know.
Yeah.
After you get done with all the water stuff, then you can do that, right? I'm just kidding. Okay. So, and I had the opportunity to take a look at it, and I was gonna bring it in with me, and it's in my car. But it was an impressive proposal.
It was. I do have some paper copies of.
Yeah, does anyone want a copy
Oh,
of it?
I'd love to see it.
Absolutely. It's a beautiful proposal. They're very visionary.
That is their expertise.
So when will we consider the council proposal?
I
The meeting
think
2
that,
weeks from now or a month from now?
I think that, yes, let's ask our attorney. When will you have a contract for us to vote on?
If you think it's important, you can have it next meeting, but you'll be shoving aside some other things that
Prioritize,
HCP.
other
please.
people might think are more important.
Oh, you mean Liz?
No.
Did you have a copy of that?
Well,
We're lucky that-
We're working hard on that litigation, that,
Oh, that's right.
you remember that $300,000?
Yeah, we don't wanna talk about
Yeah.
that.
We don't.
Yeah.
Well, we're lucky that we've had a fairly mild winter so far, because our worry is tens of thousands of dollars of damage if it gets cold.
Oh
And I-
my gosh,
And I think the
yes.
coldest we've been is 17 degrees so
Yeah,
far
yeah.
at night, so. But if we were to have a 1 or 2 week cold snap, that you could have significant damage in that building probably.
We are keeping an eye on the building
Okay.
with the facilities maintenance technician.
It's not freezing, is it? I mean, did you
No,
turn
we're
the
keeping
power
an eye
off?
on the building.
They're
because
keeping heat
it's
in it and stuff.
a cold season.
Okay, good,
Yeah.
good. I mean, keeping an eye on it is one thing, and keeping it semi-heated is another. So pipes won't burst or anything.
No.
Like you said, we haven't had that severe weather this year, so we're.
Not as
very
bad
fortunate.
as
No.
last year.
And when Matt said that, I spoke his language. I figured he was letting me know
Okay.
they're heating it.
Okay, and Arthur's been doing a good job working on this too, so
Yeah,
thank you,
thank
Arthur.
you.
Appreciate it.
Yes,
Okay,
thank
any
you.
other questions on that item? Okay, thank you, and thank you for staying
Great,
awake.
thank you for the information.
Okay, so now, I think we're on reports. Yes, council statements and requests. Huh, you guys gonna make a request? Okay, so we would ask for the city manager's report, but he's not here, so I'll have him give it to us next time. We could ask Matt if he has a report. I think he gave us one big report tonight.
Fire chief is here too.
I don't have a
Did the
lot
chief
to
come back? Oh, the fire chief is here.
Jerry sat the
Well,
whole
let's
time.
let Matt and then Jerry.
Because he has tickets.
Is Jerry awake?
He's on his,
He's like, I'm getting a call.
on his pluck truck.
You have to go?
No.
Oh, okay. Okay, Matt.
just let you know that I have continued work with Caltrans and the Yreka Rehab Project. I just saw they are scheduling another town meeting about the Yreka Rehab Project.
They are.
There are some pretty sizable changes to it since the last time I spoke with
Yes, thank
5 of you.
Thank you,
Yes.
Matt.
When I drove with some of you, there were
Thank you.
sizable changes to the issues that were at hand.
Oh,
This is
Very
the
good news.
meetings from 4 to 7 on the
19th.
19th.
Yes.
With the 19th.
Okay.
It's on the 19th of February from 4 to 7. It's going to be at Best Western Miners Inn. And then, Matt, you are scheduling a workshop on Main Street. Do you have a date for that?
There was an alteration to the workshop date that was turned to a special meeting for the
Is it the 13th?
13th, I believe.
Okay, City Council special meeting for CDBG grant for Main Street. That's the one.
When is that?
February 13th, we had scheduled a council workshop,
oh, yeah, yes.
Correct.
remember?
Oh, yes.
It's
Yeah.
going to be
It
turned
was-
into a special meeting that
Okay.
Matt's going to. Matt has requested a
That's
special
next
date.
week?
It's next week,
Thursday.
it's next Thursday, it's gonna be from 4 to 6.
And the topic is directly related
Here.
to the Yreka rehab project and the water and sewer
Yeah,
infrastructure underneath
February
the park.
13th.
So,
it's
um,
not Friday the 13th,
No.
it's Thursday the 13th.
It's not Valentine's Day, so.
4 to what, I'm
So-
sorry,
4 to 6.
thank you.
Yep, so as a portion of that, portion of those contacts and conversations with Caltrans, I also spent the week sitting right in here in this room with a large number of my crews, and we are updating the GIS layer of the water so we can have our engineers create a very, very accurate model of the entire water system that will let me know which pipes I believe that we should be talking about with that 13th meeting. So there's a lot of information coming, it's coming fast and hard, so I'm just trying to keep up with it, and I will keep you abreast of it as much as possible. If you
Okay,
need
so we'll be
more
there
drives,
the-
I'll take you for another drive.
The 13th, do you recommend that some of us, maybe 2 of us, attend the Caltrans open house? I think it's important for us to have a presence.
Yeah.
I was
On the
planning to
19th,
go.
though?
Yeah, on the 19th, it's
Yeah, we
Wednesday.
better.
That would be your decision, but I think that would
I'm
be a
gonna
good
go,
one.
anybody else?
Well,
2 can go?
Two can go, yeah, without.
no, wait a minute, how can we all?
You can all go.
We can
Yeah,
all
Because
go.
we
it's
don't
announced.
talk.
We just
As long
don't
as
sit
we
together.
don't- Yeah, we don't sit together and we don't agree on
Yeah,
anything.
As long as you don't talk business.
Right.
Yeah,
I had planned to go.
I
okay.
had planned
I'm
to go
going.
for part of it, I have another meeting later in the night, so I wanna go for part.
19th falls on a Wednesday, okay.
Your
That's-
teeth are on a Wednesday?
No,
Oh,
19th.
It's the
My
19th,
teeth
yeah.
are on a Wednesday.
Good, if you all go, I don't have to go.
Yes, you
We can
do.
report back.
Yes,
Great.
you do.
You can report
No,
back.
no, he needs to be there. He's our negotiator on that. Okay, anything else?
No.
No? Okay, Chief Jerry.
In addition to what I told you this evening, with the, 2 gentlemen that you, approved, and then, our wonderful field save, have another young lady that was our sleeper, Jenny Handa, who you approved a couple years ago.
Could you define that?
A sleeper.
Your sleeper?
Well, fire station resident.
Okay.
There you
So,
go.
Anyway, she's now in the COS Fire Academy,
Oh, excellent.
and she has just passed her paramedic.
Oh,
nice.
good.
So I'll bring her to.
Good.
If I can get her here, she's super busy.
Yeah.
You know, it's rough right now, 'cause she's working for Northern Siskiyou Ambulance.
Oh, okay.
And going to
So,
school, yeah.
So, yeah, a lot of good things happening that I don't always get to
Yeah.
report. It's kind of stagnant, and all of a sudden things
Yeah.
take
Great.
off, so. yeah,
Excellent.
It's good.
Great.
Right on it.
Good.
Good.
So other than that, we have our benefit coming up, the 15th.
Oh, that's
Saturday
right.
the 15th.
Oh.
I need 2 tickets.
I need to
Tickets.
tickets.
Did you bring
Yes.
tickets?
Yeah.
Did you bring,
Some of them, so you'll see.
did you bring tickets? Because you always sell out.
Stack of them, yeah.
You always sell out. Save us tickets, okay?
Absolutely. No, I have them here tonight. so
Oh, okay, good. We'll get 'em.
Sweet.
How much are they?
They're $20 per ticket.
Okay, I'll take 2.
Thank
want
you very
to.
much.
Yeah,
2.
definitely
Two.
Two?
Two.
Okay.
Two?
See
Two,
you
two,
Rick
two,
feed
two.
Bella?
before we leave here.
Oh, Andrea wants to go.
I was gonna say, you and your dog are going.
I could date sometime eventually, you know. Jeez, you guys are so negative.
Sorry,
Something
we're
about
protective
something
of
freezing
our,
over,
yeah,
but, yeah.
single girl
Tell her
over
to
here.
quit picking on you.
So 2, 2, 2, 2, and 2.
I've got plenty.
Okay, good. Good, that's
Yeah,
great.
that's all I have. So,
Okay, great.
there'll be more to come.
Thank you.
Couple weeks, hopefully I'll get a few folks here and we can,
Okay.
shine them up and show them off to you. So, yeah, it's good, it's good.
Right on.
Oh, awesome. Liz?
I don't have anything for that kind
Yes, you do. Yes, you do.
of way. What is it, remind me?
The thing that you sent to our attorney.
No, that's not.
Oh, you don't want to talk about that? Oh, I'm not gonna talk about
Get her in
that.
trouble.
Bretta?
I think you've heard from me probably a little bit in January, so
Yes.
I think that's.
Okay, good, good. Okay, Paul?
I just wanted to say that I appreciated being able to do the point in time count with you two. It really, my wife worked, and I'm not gonna steal your thunder,
That's
but
okay.
we learned a heck of a lot about the city, getting out there. I mean, when Gracie talks about, digging deeper, it's a deep dive.
Yeah.
And it is very interesting, and
Point in
it's,
time homeless.
and I think it'll be, I mean, I know it's a good thing.
Yeah.
It's only gonna get have more influence over funding. So
Yeah.
thank you.
That's it? Okay, Norm?
Well, we had the Fire Safe Council a week ago, and Jay Perkins talked about the Wildfire Awareness Day, May 2nd, and trying to, promote it with the various fire departments in the county, and that's good.
That's good.
Then that's because of this United Way grant that's gonna go to nonprofits to help with fire safety.
Oh, good.
So that's, if they get the grant, they'll be able to expand the program. But I mean, they're still planning to do it, even if they don't get the grants from the various nonprofit agencies. And then on, a couple days ago, I went to the Siskiyou County Air Pollution Control District meeting, which there
Board of
was like
Supervisors.
4 of the Board of Supervisors, and there were 2 city members. It was only 6. I was wondering if there was supposed to be a 7th, maybe another.
Usually it's odd numbers,
Yeah, usually things are odd numbers, but they did approve the polyethylene pile burning at that time.
We sent the letter.
Right.
Yes,
And
good.
they were very thankful. The air pollution control guy, I think Jim Smith was glad that he
Yeah.
came and supported it, and it was passed unanimously. Now it goes to the California Air Resource Board for final approval, something like that. So hopefully they can make a dent and help prevent fires around. But the amount of piles they could burn without the polyethylene was only about 10 piles per day versus 60 piles a day a crew could do if they were able to use the polyethylene burning, and it produces a lot less particulate emissions, because if the wood gets wet, then there's more smoke and stuff. So that's good.
Okay, good. Great. Anything else?
No, that's it.
Debbie?
You know what, I didn't come prepared, so I'll just add them all up for next time.
I know a meeting you were at last night.
Well, I was gonna let you take care of that.
I was gonna let somebody else take it. That works too.
Just want to add to thank Paul and Joan for being part of the point in time count. It was very good. It was successful in the amount of homeless that we did count.
Was it 45?
Well, actually, we're up to close to 60.
Wow.
But that's not including some of the other agencies yet that we haven't got back. That's in the middle of our meeting. I was texting, in the middle of our meeting, I was texting Ed Petches, who is the main instigator of this point in time count. Ed Petches is a retired CHP officer, and he's been very actively involved in our Siskiyou Homelessness Coalition meetings and been very active in this point in time, extremely active in this point in time. He heads it up through the whole county. And so we're waiting for numbers to get back on through behavioral health, human services. We still, Beacon of Hope, I didn't get their numbers yet, but when we did our survey out in the field, it was quite interesting. There's quite a few it was great. They tackled the areas like north and south Yreka. I went out diligently the past few weeks before we did the count and identified quite a few areas of encampments in areas that a lot of law enforcement doesn't even know they exist. And so we got a pretty good accurate count on that. It really was. There's not gonna get all the numbers. It's impossible to get all the numbers, but it was still very interesting. And like I said, I appreciate you guys jumping in there and getting that. Paul and his wife did an awesome job getting out there.
And education, everybody, honestly, I have to say, everybody we met, phenomenal.
Yeah.
Being able to talk to them, regardless of what their background is or issues they may have, phenomenal experience.
But like I said, it's very educational, and it helped. We did a little bribery in the aspect of.
Well, now, wait a minute. It was a $5 subway card.
Yes.
It wasn't bribery. It was
To everybody you encountered?
everybody
that wanted to participate in the count. We gave.
Oh,
He
I
bought
thought you
them.
meant the people you were counting.
No,
Okay.
no, the people we
You're
count
talking
was.
about the workers.
No, the people.
Oh,
No, the
really?
workers didn't get none of. My
No.
husband went and got me lunch.
They really, everybody I got said, oh yeah, I'll take it, I love it.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Awesome.
It definitely
He
encouraged
bought
them. It definitely encouraged them to.
Out of your own pocket?
Well,
200.
hopefully they'll get reimbursed. I'm hoping.
He'll
but-
hopefully get reimbursed. And for those of
good.
you that don't know what it is, I know you guys do, but maybe some others, the point in time count is a homeless count that's done nationwide on the same day every year. And the purpose of doing that is to determine a base for funding. And up until, not last year, but the year before.
3 years ago. This is our third season.
This is our third season, and by the way, you're doing a great job.
Fabulous job.
Yeah, Dwayne
organize it.
is our chairman of our Siskiyou Homelessness Coalition. He runs the meetings and he's doing a great job. But he also planned our whole point in time count, the maps, got the volunteers, and we just showed up and did our thing. But it was good. We talked to a lot of good people. I got to meet a murderer. I wasn't really.
Oh,
you
Yeah.
He introduced me and didn't tell me till after. Anyway,
Everybody can be, everybody
he was
needs a
perfectly
chance.
behaved.
Everybody needs a chance.
He was perfectly behaved.
Be-
Anyway, that was last Wednesday.
Yeah.
That was really good. I'm glad that we did that. Anyway, so Nancy is here, so I'd like for Nancy to go first in case she goes to sleep on us. But Nancy, would you like to tell them about the chamber annual membership meeting last night?
Last night, we had our annual chamber membership meeting.
Yes.
Thank you. I'm speaking really slowly right now.
We're putting her to sleep.
And,
Yeah.
it was very well received.
Good.
We had a good number of people there. We had good food, we had good wine, we had great water.
Great water.
And, we talked about our last year's events, we talked about our finances, we talked about our current situation. We talked about our current office hours, which are from 9 to 3 every day. We have a great temporary employee right now that's covering our office hours.
Candy's awesome.
Candy is a good person.
She's awesome.
We appreciate her. We're currently looking for a new executive director. So that's in the works, hence we don't have any events for you yet, but give us a month or so, we'll get with you. We listened to some really great feedback from people, lots of constructive criticism, lots of great ideas, and we took it all in stride. We took a lot of notes. Great comments, some super good ideas for moving forward. We have a lot of great ideas for moving forward. We looked, back through the past, we're looking forward, we're digging deep. We are really excited about some of the things that we really want to do, looking to our roots and what a chamber's supposed to do and how we want to help the community and how we want to give back and how we want to grow our events and look toward helping the community and get back to really what a chamber's supposed to do. And that's kind of what last night was all about. So we're happy about how it turned out and who was there and what we can learn from, what everybody had to say. So
Good.
very happy.
Awesome.
Great.
I do
Thank
have
you.
one question.
Sure.
How is the Citizen of the Year banquet shaping up? Because I haven't seen any advertising.
The advertising's been on Facebook. It's been there for months. Tickets are available online.
I didn't see that either.
Yeah, it's been there.
Through the chamber?
Yeah,
Yeah.
on Facebook. It's been there. And you can buy your tickets online. We are gonna get some paper tickets available too, so you can go in the office and buy them.
I think I'll go for free.
Oh, you're the
Bartending.
bartender. No
She's
fair.
like,
There we go.
No
Nancy's like,
fair.
well, that's pretty gutsy, man. You're just gonna walk right in.
I was gonna say gutsy.
Oh, is there a theme?
No,
That was us last year, remember?
you guys seem to
Oh, yep,
bring
yep.
your own theme.
I know we do. We enjoy what we do.
You do.
We have a
You enjoy
picture
what
from,
you do.
we have a picture from last year.
Yeah, that's
Yep.
right.
Citizen of the
So,
Year,
yeah,
Saturday,
that's on the
February 22nd.
22nd.
But,
So tickets are $35.
how much?
35. And we just gotta-
I don't see
yeah.
the ticket though.
Slide down a little bit.
See y'all.
It's in there. If you press like information or just.
Oh, get tickets, I
There
see.
you go.
Yeah, okay.
Just order them right now.
Okay.
You need a bigger screen,
$35
Joe.
each.
You need a larger screen.
I need a larger
At our
screen,
age, we
yeah,
need
yeah,
a
yeah.
larger.
Or a larger thumb. Yeah,
Like-
so it's all there. We're working on all that. Everything's in order and, yeah.
Good.
We're doing our videos and our interviews and everybody's been notified and, yeah. So we're on track for that.
It doesn't work. I tried to do the +2 and it's not
worked for
working.
me.
It's not working.
A bigger thumb.
Hammer.
And as soon as we get through with that, we're gonna start moving along with the rest of our events, so.
Okay, good.
Cool.
Okay, thank you. That's a great report. Okay, and I'll try to give mine quickly, but we had a Siskiyou Revitalization Network meeting last Monday, And it was great. We had all the towns represented in Siskiyou County except Happy Camp. And it's a 2-hour drive one way from there, so, yeah, we didn't have anybody come from there, but it was really great. All the towns worked together. They're coming up with plans, and they're writing up the whole, what they're gonna be doing, and and they're all by topic, so each town is deciding. Some of them are around food, some of them around arts and culture, some around natural resources and events, and it's, Corey Hayden is the staffer on that, and that's funded by a Ford Family Foundation grant. And we had it in Yreka. We move it around. The last one was in Mount Shasta the time before we got it this time. So we brought money to town. Local businessman was very happy. We had it at the wine bar. And so LTC, so last week at the Local Transportation Commission, I was elected chair.
All right on.
Again.
Congratulations.
And I'm pleased to do it, proud to do it, and represent our city and make sure we get our share of the money, right, Matt? For our roads, streets and roads. The pool grant, I don't know how many of you are aware, but we applied, all of you are aware, for an $8 million grant for the pool and for Ringing Park. We have not, to date, heard anything, right, Matt?
Correct.
The only thing we heard, Cindy, was in December when they said, well, they were supposed to let us know by the end of the year. We're not gonna be able to let you know by the end of the year, but we'll let you know early in 2020. Wasn't that the words?
Yes.
Well, we haven't heard anything.
Their early's different than our early.
So we're a little nervous about it, but we talked about it a little more. I went to a community roundtable meeting regarding forming a Parks and Recs district, and they did talk about the pool grant a little bit. So whether or not we get the grant, they still want to go forward in November on the ballot. Matt and Steve and I met with Robin and talked about that, how that would look. And so we'll be coming back to you. She wants to come back in March to talk to us about that at a meeting. And then stage, Ben and I went around with Scott Billingsley and looked at all the new stops. And we're gonna have a bus stop at the YMCA. I've been pushing for that for several years. There's gonna be a stop at the casino. Where else?
The VA.
The VA.
Good,
Yeah,
finally on the VA one.
Not only is there going to be a stop at the VA, there's gonna be a covered
Good.
place for veterans to
Good.
sit while they're
My
waiting.
wife
for
will
the
be very
bus.
happy.
Yes, tell her I worked on that. They were just gonna have a bench, and I said, can't you put a covered
Awesome.
stop,
Oh, she'll
our
be-
precious veterans, we want them to be
She'll be
safe.
I'm
Anyway,
be
so
glad to
those
hear
are,
that too.
those are some of the things I've done in the last 2 weeks. I'm not gonna bore you with the rest. Right? Okay, so I think we're done. Rob, where's your report?
Yeah.
So,
As a former member of the council.
So here's the deal, so I'm watching you guys,
Uh-oh.
and I realized,
You missed
I was
it.
even gonna make a comment, but I thought,
Yeah.
I'm gonna let it go, because this is gonna play out just right, and it did. And the reason why it plays out right is because I realized how lucky I was to sit in those chairs, and you guys are lucky also, because you have fantastic people working in the city.
Right.
Your department heads, your elected officials, your
Right.
city attorney. I know she's looking at the back of my head behind me.
She's smiling.
These are the people that make it work for you. You've got difficult jobs. It's good to see that you have thick skins. These meetings happen, right? You've seen it. And good responsible response. And again, when I take a little bit of offense when people start attacking you, and it looked like all eyes were on Don.
Yes.
I mean, Mr. Nanian, the city attorney.
Good thing he's got thick skin.
What a wonderful job he does. He did tonight, and he does for you. I mean, you are so lucky to have everyone here, and kudos to you because you took the heat tonight and you did a good job.
Yep, he did.
I did it with a smile on my face.
Yes, you did.
Well, I think everybody they all had good points, and we need to
Very
hear
good.
them, and, I think it's all important.
Oh, I agree.
And Matt, what a nice job of presenting.
Yeah.
I saw two
Yes. Really
slides
come
that
a long
look
ways,
familiar, but those other ones is like, I wanna get those. Those are pretty good.
Matt
Just
has
for your
blossomed.
Just for your edification, though,
Yes.
tonight's night was like every night when I was Crescent City's attorney
Really?
and county council.
And Del Norte?
It was very, very common.
Really?
So,
Wow.
You just get
Really?
used to it.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's why,
Board
you
of
know,
Supervisors is the
everybody
same.
that asks me about this job, I tell them it's like a fairyland, because the city council's all here for the right reason, doing things correctly. The community's supportive and comes up with the constructive, positive ideas, and the staff is great. And so it's just like a fairy tale job for me, too.
Oh, well,
Thank
thank you.
It's true.
And Nancy's gotta find out just how fun it is on the Board of Supervisors. Oh, boy. Well, thank you all. We're going to go into closed session now and stay here for another